Okay, I'm pleased to call to order the February 8th, 2023 regular meeting of the City of San Ramon Parks and Community Services Commission. Madam Clerk, can we, actually, let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's start there. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Osland,
Present.
Commissioner Breed,
Present.
Commissioner Mitra,
Present.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy,
Present.
Commissioner Ellicott Pesic,
Present.
Student Commissioner Arpita Gupta, absent. Vice Chair Dorlick,
Present.
Chair Keniston Lee.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to item 4, special items and announcements. And item 4.1, always one of our favorite parts of the meeting, our temporary employee of the month for January, Matthew Gonzalez, presented by James. Come on up.
Thank you. The City of San Ramon Parks and Community Services Department would like to recognize Matthew Gonzalez, Building Attendant 2 of the Facilities Division, as the temporary employee of the month for the month of January. Matthew has been working as a building attendant with the Facilities Division since June of 2021. Since being hired, Matthew has quickly become one of our standout staff members. Matthew has worked in all areas of the department and has created relationships with everyone within the department and the city's 4 foundation groups. Matthew is also one of our lead staff members when training new employees in order to continue the trend of exceptional assistance. As a result of a superior service and relationship building, Matthew is one of the division's primary staff members when temporary staffing is needed on a new project or event. In November of 2022, Matthew was selected to be the city representative for an open space advisory committee hike in partnership with the attending committee members. In addition to his assistance at all 4 of the facilities and serving as a lead staff member during our city's programming and private rentals, Matthew has become the principal staff member working the Tuesday bingo program at the Al Costa Senior and Community Center. Matthew has built a rapport with all of the regular participants, volunteers, and foundation members involved. Everyone has come to rely on Matthew's assistance, which greatly helps the full-time staff when issues arise. Not only is Matthew attentive and helpful to all members of the bingo program, but he genuinely cares about everyone at the facility. It is my honor to present him as Employee of the Month, and the City of San Ramon Parks and Community Services Department would like to take this opportunity to say thank you to Matthew Gonzalez for his commitment to excellence throughout the City of San Ramon and their facilities.
Matthew. So the fact that here's a little token of our appreciation. The fact that we have so many great staff members to get distinguished like this is big. And every time somebody like James writes up a report on what you do, I always try to hone in on something that's special about it. And for you, I was really impressed that you're building relationships, not only with staff, but with the public, with residents, with the seniors. And that's a lot about the functions that it is about. So congratulations.
Thank you very much. Oh, thank you. Thank you, James, for the kind words. Thank you for this recognition. And I just want to say thanks. That it means a lot to be recognized because I do try to come off that way. I grew up in Hawaii and we have a saying like live aloha, which is just like share your happiness and be happy with everyone. And I try to do that. And thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
Yes. For Matt, I mean, I just want to say thank you because you do a good job. So I worked with you a lot. So, but you do show kindness and always are there to help and everything. So I commend you and thank you for your service.
Thank you, Carol. It means a lot.
Anybody else?
And me too.
Thank you, Juliet.
Matt he saved the day this summer when we were conducting our summer speaker series and Bill Clarkson was speaking and the microphone went out. And we were holding it in the barn, and there's, you can hear ambient freeway noise, and you really have to shout if you don't have a microphone. And Matt was just like, he was our guy. He helped set up all 3 summer speaker events. But when anything was technically had gone awry, he was Johnny on the spot and got it resolved. So thank you, Matt. And thanks for everything you do for our city. And it's a pleasure working with you and knowing you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, great. So under special items and announcements, oh, more claps. We're gonna go to special announcements. Kathy, do we have any?
Of course, I have a few
Uh-huh.
announcements. Let's see. So the big one is a surprise for you, I think. You all now have official city emails.
Ooh.
I know, how exciting.
It doesn't take much.
The giver of gifts. Anyway, we're gonna be sending those out to you tomorrow. You're gonna need to log in. We've got the directions and reset the password because they've given you a temporary password. And then all of your city email, commission emails will all start going to that email. It is public document. So that's the one really kind of key point here, is that nothing that you share back or forth on that email is private or confidential. It can all be part of the public record. So you should know that. And that's part of why we think it's important that we give the commission an email address. It also helps keep your private information private, and your public persona will now be esprit@sanramon.ca.gov. So that'll all be coming to you in email tomorrow. We didn't want to send it out to warn you it was coming. That would confuse everyone. And if you have trouble or you're struggling with it, Christy is ready and able to help. Yes, right there. So that's one thing. We also have a subcommittee meeting that we'll be trying to schedule later this month. It'll be the policy committee, which is Commissioner Breeze, Commissioner Lopez Lucy, and Commissioner Osland. We don't have a date yet. We'll be reaching out for that. We're looking at the special event application process, like for the big special events. And so we'd like your feedback on it. So you can kind of expect that. No date yet. A few other upcoming events that you should mark your calendars for: Senior Foundation Cupid Bingo this weekend on February 11th. Lady K and the Kings of Swing concert on February 18th. February 24th and March 3rd, those 2 Fridays, we'll have Friday Forum Films. Can't miss the Teen Job and Career Fair coming up on March 4th. A symphonic band concert on March 10th. And I had to go all the way to the 11th, although I know you'll have your next meeting before then, because we have 3 things on March 11th, and I don't want anyone to miss it if they're going to be in town, because we'll have the Experience Open Space through Stephen Joseph Photography at 9 o'clock in the morning on March 11th. And then in the afternoon, the Party in the Park Camp Fair from 1 to 3. And then we'll round out that amazing day with Ladies Night with Sheena Easton and Taylor Dane at the Performing Arts Center. So that's a big day in San Ramon. That's it.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comment on this item? Okay, thank you. So let's go to 5, general public comment or written communication. At this time, members of the public are encouraged to address the Parks and Community Services Commission on any item not already included in tonight's agenda, and comments should not exceed 3 minutes. Do we have anybody?
Nobody in the audience has their hands raised and we did not get anything.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so moving right along, item 6, approval of the minutes. As usual, we assume everybody has reviewed them prior to coming to the meeting for the January 11th. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Dorlick made the motion, Commissioner Micha second. All right, and let us vote.
Well, I'm not voting.
Oops.
You can vote.
Oops. I goofed.
You goofed.
Yeah.
Do we need to reboot did you? It's all good, we're good? Okay, so motion passes 6-7, as I recall. Did you I mean,
I did vote.
oh, we're waiting for Carol, yeah. There you go,
I
there we go.
voted twice.
Okay, so we have accepted the minutes, we're good. All right, now I do have speaker requests from a couple of commissioners. We're good. That was the goof. Okay. All right. Okay, good. All right. Item 7, consent. Do we have any consent items? No, we do not. Okay. Okay, so on to commission business. Starting with item 8.1, the Library Advisory Annual Report, which I know we're all excited to hear.
Yes, I'll get this agenda item started. So thank you very much, commissioners, for having us here this evening. We're very happy to report out on the Library Advisory Committee. It is recommended that the commission receive the report, provide feedback to the committee and staff, and recommend the report be forwarded to the city council. The city council adopted a procedure for all city committees whereby each committee would provide an annual report to the city council on their operations, accomplishments, and work plans. This report was prepared by the Library Advisory Committee with input with staff and was approved at their January 12th meeting. The report will probably go to the city council in March when we can get on their agenda. So to give you a little background before we bring Vice Chair DeWath up, just as kind of a reminder, the library is a unique partnership that the city has, and it's a great one. We actually partner with the county in regards to our library services. The city is responsible for the facility operations and maintenance, and the county actually is in charge of all of the services provided, programs, materials, supplies, all of the operations of the library services. So those are all handled through county staff and county operations. And actually, that's throughout the county. I believe every library in Contra Costa is handled by the county in regards to those services, I believe. And so, it's a great opportunity for us. We provide the facility, they provide the services. So it's good. Also, the county, not only does our city have a library advisory committee, but the county also has a county-wide library advisory committee that meets to talk about county-wide library operations and provides feedback to the county as a whole. Each city has a liaison that's part of that county library advisory committee, and then there's 2 alternates. So the city of San Ramon does have somebody, and they go through the same selection process that we do for our committees and our commissions. On that. And I'm also happy to say Elaine Pedley, I'm not sure if you've heard, but she just officially got appointed the Doherty Station Library position. So it's unique. Normally, we only have one librarian that oversees both libraries. And the county just recently decided to divide that up. So Francis is still overseeing the San Ramon Library operations, and Elaine will be overseeing the Doherty Station Library operations. And that just went into effect here just recently. So I kind of wanted to let you know on that. And last but not least, I want to thank Richard for helping us out this evening, Vice Chair DeWath. Our chairperson unfortunately had a family illness, and at the last minute, we needed to call Vice Chair into action, and he graciously volunteered. So he's going to help us out with tonight's presentation. So Vice Chair DeWath, if you want to come up and join us, that would be great.
Welcome.
Thank you.
We're pretty tame.
It's nice to be here. So thank you, Cindy and Brad, and the support on my side too is good. So I appreciate that. This is pretty exciting to be able to talk to you for a little bit. I'll try not to bore you too long either. So why don't we begin with the annual report? These are the current members. We have 5 who are current, and we have 2 alternatives. And we meet quarterly, and from that we get the input from the librarians and other organizations within the city of San Ramon, but what can impact the success of the library. And we sit and we learn and we discuss and we try to advocate for the best way to get our libraries to reach the community in all new ways, as well as what's happening since COVID. So we have a good group up there. The charge of the committee, make recommendations to staff, commission, Contra Costa County Library officials, and the city council on the delivery of library services. Receive and evaluate input from the community. Act as a liaison for library issues to other governmental, nonprofit, and private organizations. Serve as a resource and advocate for the city on library issues. Review county library policies and provide input to the county on policies for San Ramon libraries. Don't have a lot more to say to that in itself, but to indicate that we spend a lot of time learning from much working with the libraries, getting the inputs, the metrics, the understanding, and discussing what would help improve our community relationships and input from the community. Simple example, well, I'll give an example a bit later since it shows up in other places too. But this is something we do and everybody comes in with a good opinion and we have good discussions. The 2022 goals and objectives. The Library Advisory Committee will monitor the retention and use of the library performance standards or library performance metrics outlined in the city's general plan 2035 updated July 9th, 2014. We get a lot of the information through Brad and through the other people of what are the metrics, how are we meeting them, where are we finding problems, where we can then talk about how can we improve those situations, what do we expect. I think this is what I was going to say. It's so important to look at this and the other things because COVID had a major impact on the library in person. As just as I was talking to, believe it or not, was it the associate dean at DVC today, because I was over there, and she was talking about the same problem with the students. They left for 2 years and coming back is not as easy as it sounds. It's not simply turn it off, turn it on. The libraries, I think, because I go there once a week usually, I think they're doing a great job, but I think we are seeing how do we get our metrics back to where we understand we're getting back to the community. And I think we're doing a great job there, but it's an ongoing process. So just for that part, and Brad is one of the people who turns into good metrics. The Library Advisory Committee will continue to evaluate library services to ensure San Ramon's library services meet and respond to the evolving needs of the community. That is simply an ongoing thing. We learn all the time from each of the librarians from San Ramon, what's going on, what are the new programming things they're planning to do. Some of them are, you can see, are going to be great. Others we're looking, how will this work as we go forward? We talk about it, but we learn from them. The DSL, this is the Doherty Station Library. Great little library down there. I know that there were a lot of things they were going to do. They're going into a lot of programming because things have changed and they're working really hard to reach out to the local community there. And I'll get more into that, but you have this thing where we can work with them to improve the services. And I think they're doing a great job given what happened with COVID. Continued, the Library Advisory Committee will continue to monitor the programming and operations of the library at San Ramon campus and the impact on the new facilities will have on the overall library offering to the community. And that's what we do every quarter. We get really good reports from different people, depending on, it's with the youth or it's the San Ramon, the Doherty Library. There's a lot that is going on with new programming, new ideas. Some of them, they take time to evolve where they can actually put in place. But you're listening to and asking, will this help the whole community? Will it benefit getting people to come to the library one way or the other? How do we make sure all these programmings will in fact let people know this library is more than simply books. Books are great, but it does so much more. So we work with them on that offerings and what they can do. The Library Advisory Committee will monitor the Contra Costa Library Strategic Plan implementation timeline. We do have the liaison with the county. We learn sometimes there are other libraries in the county that we can probably go visit since they've reopened. We can learn from them. So taking visits is sort of an individual thing, but I think some of us have been able to do that. You see how they open, you see the changes. We also learn, what we're expected as the San Ramon part of the county that we have to do. And we can discuss, things that may not work as well for us or things we think we can implement better. The Library Advisory Committee will review and approve the story walks stories that are presented by the county library staff. A little history. I'm on the committee now. I was off for a while because I didn't renew for the time, but I was there when they first came up with the idea of how about we do this story walk idea? And I looked at it and I said, I walked through the Central Park with my dogs pretty much 4 or 5 times. I see the kids, I see the families. I said, wouldn't it is wonderful, the idea to bring stories where the families can be together. I now speak a couple of years later and we still go with my dogs and we see families and they sit there and they read, and the kids, you have this great unity that you see just walking through the park, not on the rainy days, unfortunately, but the sunny days that we have. It is just a wonderful thing to see the families able to do that. I think it's a thing that is a very big success. I wish I had a glass of water all of a sudden. Sorry. Evaluate and provide feedback on the transition from online programming to COVID-safe in-person programming. And that was kind of one of the things that we are looking at so much, because so much has changed as people have come back. And of course, one of the metrics is, are people coming back? And I can give some good news. When I go there, I quite often see a good number of people. They want to be there, but things have changed. Oh, well, thank you. My gosh, thank you, Ben. He does a great job all the time. You should know better.
Full service.
But this is still a point of transition. I think the libraries, and we want to know, are we able to reach out and bring back groups that maybe have gotten lost in the 2 years? Because things change and people get used to things. So I know that they're working on it. We're interested in seeing more improvement on that. I mean, one area that I was thinking of, not just because of COVID, but in general, we know from other agencies where there's going to be potentially building of housing in the marketplace area. And one of the things that we've talked about as part of post-COVID is, how do we reach out to these new groups when they open up? I mean, when you get housing, you get new people. How do we successfully bring them into the knowledge that there is a library just down the street? One of the things I've always said in my life, I found is the biggest hidden item in front of you is the library. Quite often, people don't know where it is too often, and yet we need to work on that. And I think they do a good job, but that's just something you have to keep doing, because our demographics change, people come in, they don't know what the last people knew. And our library is sitting there saying, we can help you. We have so much to offer you. Come and see us. The Library Advisory Committee will visit the community college library during different times of day and log what they observe and recommend ways to encourage community to better engage with the space. I know I've done that recently. And it is fascinating to talk to people, and they say, since the COVID again, yes, people use it, but they're not using it fully. There's so much opportunity in these places, in all the campuses that we have. And I'll just leave it at that, since it becomes redundant, but so important. Okay, that was for the 2022. You'll notice that the objectives for the most part in 2023 are to monitor the retention and use of the library performance standards and metrics, continue to evaluate the library services, which we are doing, monitor the impact the new library has on the overall library offerings throughout the community. And I know that there were so many things that were supposed to happen. They've changed due to circumstances. They out there are working on programming, looking, how do we get more people? What are we not providing that the community on that side of the hill, so to speak, will want and will come in? And I think that they're doing this. And I think we're going to find that we're going to see better numbers as we gain more understanding of how we can advocate to get sometimes very simple things. Let's just put it this way. How about a nice newspaper that people read from their home country? They're here, they want to read it. We provide a nice newspaper. They want to come in and read it. I'd like people to come in and read. A simple thing, doesn't cost a lot, but the community knows we care about them. There we go. Monitor the Contra Costa County Library Strategic Plan Implementation, San Ramon. review and approve the story walk stories that are presented, receive a presentation on the current hours of the library. Again, all of these are things we just talked about. We are working on them as advocates. We get great input from all of the different people who support us. I think the last one is just interesting as a comment. Receive a presentation on the current hours of library services. And I think that's a very important aspect because we need to understand it, what we can do, what the limitations have been, because there have been changes. And then, of course, go back and advocate. What about the people who want to come? You don't have the right hours and they come there saying, but you're closed. I don't want to see that as an advocate for myself. I love going to the library. I get to go in the daytime now, so it's easier. And weekends are important because some people work. I used to commute down to Silicon Valley. I promise you, I never got home in time during the weekdays. Weekends were important to me. So I feel that that one little thing as a goal and objective is an important one for the library as part of its community. And so questions, comments, ideas, and I do thank you.
You. First of all, I want to say you did a great job. You really did.
Thank you.
You followed the script, but I love the personal anecdotes. So thank you for that. You did a wonderful job. So we're going to go to clarifying questions and I'm going to use my handy dandy computer here. So Carol, what does it be? I don't have any questions. I just have some. Oh, okay. So we're going to do the clarifying questions first. Any clarifying questions? See, you did such a great job. There are no clarifying questions. I have a couple, just real quick ones.
Please.
One is, and thank you, Brad, for telling us more about that county city perspective, that connection, right? That they are really doing the programming, they're doing the staffing, they really are running the library in many ways, right? And I don't think everybody understands that because of the city library. So thank you for sharing that with us. That's really important. I'm curious then, in terms of the role of the Library Advisory Committee, how many other local communities have library advisory committees, and is our Library Advisory Committee sort of connecting with those other groups to see what their role is with regard to the county really being the one to run the library?
I'm only gonna speculate on this, but I do not believe a lot of those communities have library advisory. I think it's a minimal amount that's in the town. Most of them have library advisory committee.
Okay.
Or provide their feedback to other avenues, but I don't believe there's a lot of other official library advisory committees operating in cities. I'm more than happy to do some research on that. and let you know.
Yeah, it might be a good networking thing to see how they're implementing their Library Advisory Committee. I mean, I'm very committed to the Library Advisory Committee in our community, and I'll get into that later. And then the other thing is, at one time we had talked about a reduction of service hours, I believe at Doherty Station Library. Remember, we had that whole thing. And unless this was just me like making this up, that we had recouped some of those hours, but where are we at with that? Because I noticed one of your goals is to monitor the service hours. But are we monitoring that? Are we seeing where the need is?
Yeah, we are monitoring that and we're keeping our eye on it and we go through it. Currently where we're at is the county provides 40 standard hours to all city libraries right now. And most communities, those are all the hours that they have. Some cities or communities have decided to increase those hours. So at the Doherty Station Library, the city funds for 6 additional hours. And at the San Ramon Library, the city funds for 16 additional hours. And that gets us additional hours in the evening and in the mornings. The one difference is that 10-hour difference is the San Ramon Library is open on Mondays, where the Doherty Station Library is not.
And then I know for years we've boasted, I believe, the highest circulation rate county. Are we still there?
Well, it's hard because everything's been online. So, and it'll be interesting as we come out of this, what tools do we use to evaluate? You know, is it circulation? Is it bodies through the door? Is it, those type of things? So we're working with the county and I believe they're looking at how they're going to evaluate those measurements for success. But you're right, we traditionally do, but so, right, that's an index that we
Yeah,
can't,
that's a tough one.
because
That's good.
everything's been online and the numbers are off the charts. for online services, but the reason for that is because anybody can access those programs. So
Yeah.
we would, which is a good thing, right? I mean, we would do some online programming, but the whole county can access those just as well as other communities could be doing online programming and as well as our community accessing those. So yes.
And then my last question, probably for Richard, is does your group feel, does the advisory committee feel that 4 meetings a year is sufficient to accomplish what you want to as an advisory committee?
I think I would bring that back to them. I think we do pretty well because we do depend upon the input from different parts of the organization, and they may not always have all the time to do everything. You know, everybody's busy, but we want to take time, the quality of that quarterly meeting and get more done within. I think that is probably for now, the best thing is to see if we can get, you know, a little bit more quality of time for that, so that we all feel comfortable we're providing back good, you know,
Okay,
responses.
thank you. Okay, so do we have any public comment? We don't, okay. All right, and so we're gonna go to, oh, you have a question?
I have a
Oh, question. Let's get your question.
So I just wanted to refresh my memory on thank you for your presentation. How often do we refresh the story walk?
I believe it's every
Stories.
quarter, just about it. It's-
Quarterly?
I remember,
Mhm.
we just refreshed it and I'm looking forward to this one because it's going to be a good one. And then the next one, which I liked also, because it has a different theme, but it'll be good for the summer. So I believe it's every quarter. I didn't want to overstep myself on that.
And how is the selection process played out?
This goes through, I think it's Elaine was working on that. And what she does is she looks for quality books, storybooks that are available that meet, I think, certain criteria, but then they present to us and we discuss it and we look at the pros and cons, what we feel would be a great way to have the community see it, that they would enjoy it and also learn from it, because most of these have some lesson of learning of how can we be better? How can we, you know, deal with each other in ways that make it more positive to be here. So it's a dynamic thing. It's not just we sit there and we actually read ahead of time and then we have a discussion about it. And
Yeah, and if I could just add on that, it's a great collaboration and she usually brings in a couple books for them to consider and then they go back and forth and she spends a lot of time and energy making sure, you know, when was the last time we had a woman writer? Are they local? Are they not local? Are they picking up our demographic and our community with these stories? So she does spend a lot of time going into that. And then that's part of the discussion. And then she also lets them know, okay, we've been really heavy on, you know, boys, the book being about a boy, let's get a girl in the book type of a thing. And then the committee will weigh in on that and give her direction as well.
Okay, so with no public comment, we'll go to commissioner comments with Commissioner Lopez Lipsey first.
Well, thank you for a wonderful presentation. I mean, we would all love the libraries if we had you to be our PR person all the time. You did an excellent job. You really did. Because you covered things, you explained why, and you also put your input to it. It made it very nice. And I'm like you, I love that little storybook area because, you know, I have grandchildren and it's nice to walk around with them and go through that and they can see that there are other things in the park besides, you know, sports that they can, and it bonds them, mom or dad or their family together, I think, by reading together. I think that's very important.
I
And
totally
so
agree.
I just appreciate all that you've said. So, I mean, that was one of the things that I'm really into. And so I just wish my family lived closer so I could make better use of the little story time and things like that they have, because I think we have a wonderful library. So thank you so much for your input and for giving us lots of good information.
Commissioner Breed?
Yes. First of all, nice job, especially, you know, when you didn't know you were going to present. So thank you so much. I thought you did an excellent, and I'm with Carol. Your extra comments helped me answer a lot of questions I was going to ask earlier. So thank you so much. I have 2 pieces of feedback, and it's more how we interact with the county. But when whoever represents us on the county level, I was looking at our master plan and you guys nailed number 1. I like number 1 in school a lot. And in our master plan, we talk about teens and children. And when we're working with the county, I think, especially around Doherty Station, how do we look around the corner and offer more programs for teens and interact them. And what I'm thinking, Richard, is we give feedback to the county is they're all going to be going to college, not all of them, but a lot of them will be going to college, and working with the library and offering programs, I think will really help with the transition. So just trying to look around the corner a little bit and how do we offer more programs for children? And the only other feedback I had is how can we, and this is more for the county, but how do we leverage social media more with more people working at home? I know a lot of my friends all use the rooms in the library and rent those out, or not rent those out, but you whatever for an hour or two. But our libraries offer a lot of great services for our citizens that I'm not sure people are as aware of. And how do we leverage social media a little bit more once they just feedback for the county as they do that? So I thought, and in closing, I thought your goals are solid and are very aligned. Very aligned with what we're trying to do as a city. And I know it's harder because we provide facilities, you guys provide input into the county, but those are two things I would ask the county to consider as they work forward. So hopefully that's helpful. So
It is very helpful, and I really agree with you that, these are the areas that will make success for us, especially out in the Doherty area, because that is still a new area. And there's, I think, a misunderstanding that just because you go to college doesn't mean you will never go to a library. It
Yeah.
does the library offer you the programming that will help you be better at college.
when you said a line, I think is really important. The library is more than books, right? I mean, I think that's a really poignant line and how we leverage that. So anyways, I know we own the building part of it, but whoever gets feedback to the county. So thank you so much for your time and thanks for listening. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Mitra?
Richard, thank you. I really appreciate, and I think you did a fantastic job here explaining, and not only going through the slides, but also the meaning in that. How did the whole thing came across? I mean, how did the whole library committee use that as a guidelines and kind of guided through that and serve the community? I think really fantastic. Being a liaison for the library committee, I have a special feeling about that committee, irrespective of whether we other communities have or not. But I can tell you that this committee passionately serves our community, and I have seen how they have done when opening up the library gradually, how passionately they thought about, filled it through, and had a plan how to open it post-COVID. That was, I've seen that, how did that. Without a committee like the passionate people, it would have been probably, I don't know how that would do that. And also they came up with a plan this time that last year to visit the different community libraries and come back and give the feedback on that. I thought that was an excellent idea somebody came up with, and that was implemented. I'll go through that when I give the committee things more details on that. But I think that was a very successful program on that, and we got very good feedback because of that. So Richard, you and Rita and everybody else, thank you guys for your services.
Commissioner Ellicott-Pisick?
Thank you again for your report. Excellent job. And I really appreciate your commitment and passion, and the commission's commitment and passion for this. These are really important institutions, and I am proud of the libraries in our community. I think they continue to evolve and adapt to best serve the community with a foundation, of course, in books and things like that. I check out books all the time through the audio and Kindle apps. Haven't been in too often lately, but one thing that continues to come to mind, it will be no surprise when we talk about utilization of the libraries and perhaps having other opportunities to use them more. I think about our local schools, particularly, Iron Horse and Windermere, which are walking distance to the libraries. I think about how much our education system is leaning into project-based, group-based work. I think about the kids at times needing to get together to collaborate or work together, or sometimes they need to go to school early or stay later. And we say, go to the library, and they say, it's closed. And what's happening on our campuses, to the extent they have libraries, is they are overutilized and very often closed, or because of funding, don't have the hours to stretch. So one of my questions is, can we consider doing more to partner
with our schools to let them know when and how, and, that those resources for project base, for, group things, for extra study time. I know some of that happens. And of course, the hours are limited, but is there more we can do with our schools to partner together to make those facilities more available to the extent that we have the ability to do so?
First of all, I agree with the concept of working with the schools. When I was in school, they had school libraries, but that meant you had a librarian, so it'd be great to liaise with them. And so I'll bring that back to the committee to talk about how can we better utilize our resources with the schools and help the schools and the kids there want to come and realize it's a good place to be. I think there are many who do after school, so there is a lot of hope there. But that's a good one. I will bring that back also. Thank you.
Commissioner Osland?
Thank you again. I just wanted to comment because I always think of a library as a wonderful hub for every generation and every ethnic diversity, because it's to me, it's like almost like a community center in a lot of ways. And I just think that, it's such an important piece in our community. I feel really proud that we have two here. We're very lucky. Perhaps think about maybe partnering with the senior advisory committee to try to do maybe some more outreach to get some of the seniors to visit the libraries, or I don't know, maybe have special programs for them. But, the story time, when kids get out of school and they hang out and do their homework. And I go there when I have a housekeeper, I go to the library and bring all my stuff. And I just love, hanging out there. And so keep it up, and such a valuable committee that we have, and you guys are doing great work. Thank you.
And I agree with the seniors. I've thought about that, and I will talk to them next time, because I feel like sometimes seniors, it's not that they don't want to come, it's just too hard to come. And we need to find a way to reach out to them, that they participate, not just online, but with the physical part of being a member of our library. So I will follow up on that. Thank you.
Okay.
I have another comment.
Oh, okay. Go for it.
On speaking with the seniors and everything, like, it is true that some of them can't come there. And we have partnered with the city we have a little library at the senior center now, and it's used tremendously. We were surprised because some of the times we really can't keep up with them, because I'm with the Dublin San Ramon Women's Club, and that's what we do. So we take our turns of keeping it up to date, but it is really useful. And that's another way that we can work together with the library, to be sure. But we have an abundance of books, and we have some underneath the cabinets that we continually change around. So, and magazines and everything. So they are making use of it. So it's another good way to work with the seniors.
I definitely want to follow up on that one, because
Yeah,
that's an
because
area that interests me, of course.
We're really happy with it, that we've done that and tried to keep it up really well.
Great. See, I get some good
Yeah.
learning from here. So thank
Yeah.
you.
So I have a question. Are you guys still meeting remotely?
Yes.
You are. So this is for Kathy and Brad. Where are we at with having our advisory committees meet in person?
Yeah, our last meeting was our last remote meeting.
Okay.
So we'll be
So,
going
okay.
back to in-person starting
Yeah.
in just like all of our committees, councils, commissions,
Okay.
all meetings moving
So we're
forward
almost there.
are
We're just about there.
going back in person. Yeah.
Okay, good. So my comments, I think everybody said what they had to say, is I absolutely, like everybody, love Story Walk. I think that is a really good example of our, with the county managing most things, but are finding a way to personalize something and make it, and I know it's things that other communities have done that same project, but I love that we took ownership of that and that we initiated that. And that's something that we in San Ramon can really be proud of. So I love that. I know that when I was working on the renovation of the San Ramon Library with that committee, we looked at the evolving role of libraries in the community. And one of them is as a gathering place, right? And a community builder. And that's really important. So my challenge to the Library Advisory Committee would be to continue to look at ways that we can promote the library in its evolution to the San Ramon community. I know the county has certain campaigns like what was the one, Brad? It was like, get a library card day or something that we can push out. It comes from the county. We push it out to our community. I'd like to see us take advantage of our own San Ramon opportunities to promote the library as an evolving place and communicate how it's relevant to, to teens and to kids going to college and to seniors. We need to take some ownership because we don't own the programming per se. We need to take some ownership of how we promote the library and not just rely on the county pushing that down to us. So staying relevant. Also, I had written down a comment about social media as well as Steve did. I think that's really important that we utilize those vehicles. The other thing that really came to mind was the fact, and you sort of, Richard, touched on this a little bit, beyond the marketplace development with 40 homes, we're looking at thousands of homes going into the city core. So we need to figure out, what does that mean in terms of impact on our 2 libraries? And how do we introduce them to our wonderful 2 libraries? How do we make sure, and I know the matrix that you talk about, and I'm sure the county will monitor to some extent, but we need to be an active participant in what that means for our community in terms of the library. So I would just say that almost should be another goal and objective is how over the next 25 years do we mitigate library services for a significantly growing community? I think that's something that would be a really robust conversation with you guys to see what that means.
And I fully agree. These are wonderful ideas. I think in my own heart, I'm along with you. This is why, the idea of better social media, finding new ways and realizing that our community is going to change some, and we need to be ahead of it as much as one can be, that we're not finding out that people basically have disappeared from our ability because we never thought about talking to them, so to speak.
Yeah. And one of your goals was getting community input.
Right.
I noticed that. Have you guys talked about, I had heard that there might be a county library survey coming down, but have you talked about what vehicles you would want to utilize to get that community input?
Brad, do you have any input on that? I'm going to have to defer on this
That's
one.
okay, no problem.
Yeah, no, the county's working on that new survey and their new plans for the future. And so once they have that and how they want the city to help, educate the community to fill out the survey, of course, we'll be working with them on that, participating on it and
Yeah.
seeing what role we
Yeah.
can take in
And
that.
that's what I would say. I
And
would
rolling
say,
it out.
yeah, make sure that we are looking at the questions that they're developing and that they're gleaning the information that's going to be useful to us to have a good library, couple libraries. So I would say, it sounds like you guys are active participants with that.
Yeah, the county will drive kind of because it'll be a county-wide survey. So they'll be looking for directions from all their communities and getting feedback for that
Yeah.
and then utilizing those resources.
Yeah. And I guess my last comment would just be, I think with all of our advisory committees, we kind of almost rely on you to think outside of the box, be that conduit for cutting edge practices. We want to know what's going on. And Brad, of course, you're a big help with that too. What are libraries with this sort of county city dynamic? What are they doing? That's really best practices. And so I love that you guys are benchmarking and networking with other libraries to find out what other communities are doing. And I'm excited what that will bring to our community in terms of best practices library services. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, had you raised your hand on the thing?
Going up and down.
No. That's why I was all over the place, but we would not dream of not hearing from you. There you go. Wait a minute, let me check. Commissioner Dorlick? Okay.
Vital resource, there was a lot of mention about social media and most of it, I think, was outreach to the community. Is that correct? You were thinking about social media outreach for bringing in. I would actually advocate for creating spaces within the library for creation of social media. For, blogging rooms, et cetera, et cetera. I know we got stuff going on in Doherty Valley. But if the library is going to be a vital area for new media and not just print media, that would be something to consider. So video rooms, areas for that are not outside of the Doherty, Valley area, but more student oriented. So providing a place, and I think that would be a draw as well for them to see other services that would be relevant. So just an idea.
That's a good idea.
that good?
That was good. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad I called on you.
There you go.
Okay,
I got a hand up. next time.
okay. Any other comments, Richard? Are you good?
No, it's great input. Probably trivial thing was I was reading about the Atlanta libraries in Georgia and how they came along, and some of the very things that, you were just talking about was, well, what will bring kids in? And it turned out that basically we don't have it, but idea basically is, I used to call it a soundproof room, but where they can actually record their own rap or whatever it is they're
Yeah.
doing. And amazingly, that brought in a ton of
Yeah.
people because suddenly it's something that they want.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really good point.
Well, we have the 2 listening rooms at the San Ramon Library upstairs that are somewhat soundproof, I recall. And, if they're not being used for listening, people can go there. And I will often read my parks packet in that room. And the view overlooking our city is fantastic. It's just beautiful. So I think that to Vice Chair Dorlick's point, that evolution of the purpose of a library is changing. And I think that's a step in that direction. So that's good. So are we needing a motion or?
We got to move it to, we afford it to the city council. So I move we forward this to the city council.
Second.
Okay, wait a minute. Let's go back to our city clerk. City clerk, I think when Commissioner Lopez Lucy was trying to make a comment, she pushed mover. And then, so do we want to stick with that or are we good with that?
They just changed it.
Okay,
They're,
Yes is under the move.
okay, so we're good. So I have,
You can have the second. I'll give you my second. You can take it.
Oh, I wasn't even mentioning that.
yeah, no, she was just trying to give a
Got it.
comment. Okay, so I believe it was Commissioner Breed made a motion. Is that correct? And then Commissioner or Vice Chair Dorlick second. Okay, so if everybody will please vote.
so I don't need to vote.
All right, approved 7-0. You did it. You made it through. Good job.
Thank you for that. It's been a pleasure.
We will tell Rita that you did a good job representing her and the committee and the whole advisory committee. Thank you. Okay, so
Thank you.
we're gonna go to item 8.2. Doherty Station Community Center renaming, and Adam Chow is gonna get us kicked off on that one.
Hello, good evening. Great to see everybody. Thank you for having me here. This evening, we're going to be talking about the Doherty Station Community Center and the renaming for that facility. So we've been talking about this one once already before, so you could have me back again to be able to continue talking about it. I think that's the plan, is I'll be back every couple of months talking about the Art Center. So I think that's the exciting part for us. So, well, thank you for having me here this evening. What we're looking to do tonight is looking to have a recommendation for the name change for the Doherty Station Community Center to the Doherty Station Community Arts Center. Recommend renaming the interior rooms based on function in the case of multiple rooms with the same function, including a number as an identifier, and also retain the Ridgeview name and add Ridgeview name as it is, and add artwork to the room that's reflective of the Ridgeline. So that's a recommendation this evening. Just some background on what we've been doing in regards to this research and community outputs and inputs. The Doherty Station Community Center, as you know, is under renovation right now as an art center. It'll be reopened, shifted the date a little bit. So it'll be reopened in the summer of 2023 with an arts focused. The community center will have a reimagined spaces of what we can be able to use for artists, teachers, students, and art patrons for the community. The facility will have an expanded art gallery, expanded dance studio, new artist studios, new sound studios, a green room, and additional program space on the second floor as well. And when this facility and rooms are not used by programs that we currently have, they will be available for rent to community groups, art groups, residents, civic organizations, businesses, and individuals looking for meeting space, events, or programs on their own as well. And so renaming the Doherty Station Community Center as it is currently into an arts focus would really help highlight the facility's role as arts in the community. It would really recognize art as a key function in that center among the other uses that we have, but really is just really providing that focus. In renaming, we looked at the facility, park, and naming policy, and in that, the first step for us really is to be able to create a community survey and be able to get input from the community in regards to the naming. So we did a community survey that went out in December and closed in January. There were 107 survey responses to that, and you have the survey response data in your packet. And the areas that we really talked about in the survey, we're really focusing on 3 different areas. One is really renaming the exterior of the facility, renaming the interior rooms and looking at a theme in regards to that. And third, renaming the Ridgeview room, seeing if that was an opportunity for that and there. The survey results were brought to the Arts Advisory Committee at the January 18th meeting. And so the committee reviewed the results, discussed, had a lot of lively discussion actually in regards to it. And so it was great to be able to have them provide their input on it. The Arts Advisory Committee felt it was important to rename the Doherty Station name in the title. The Doherty Station name has been around for 18 years now. And so that branding that the facility currently has, the committee felt it was important to be able to keep that brand name that we have there. They also felt that adding arts to the name would help clarify the purpose of the facility and the focus of the facility. That was a key addition. And then though the Doherty Station Cultural Arts Center had the most #1 votes in the survey, the name did not resonate with the Arts Advisory Committee members as it felt they had a more of a museum connotation. They felt the word cultural could be interpreted as multicultural, and the center does not have a multicultural arts focus. Lastly, the AAC also noted that adding Ceremony to the name could be confusing with other facilities such as the Ceremony Community Center. And they did want to make sure that the unique identifiers were available to be easily identify the facilities separately from each other. In addition to the exterior rooms, we looked at the interior rooms, and the Arts Advisory Committee recommended renaming the rooms based on the function of the rooms. They felt that it would be easily prevent confusion for our community members as they were walking around, and also for our renters who are renting the facilities online as well. They could easily be able to look at the function of the room, identify that's the room that I want to be able to use easily, as opposed to another name that may be a little more arbitrary. If there are multiple rooms of the same name, they recommended having a numerical identifier for those rooms. The Arts Advisory Committee was very clear that they did not recommend using artist names as a theme for the rooms because they did not feel like it would be inclusive. There was a limited number of rooms. They did not feel like they could be inclusive of the different types of artists in regards to media, time periods, cultures, all those sorts of things. So they wanted to make sure that they felt that that was not a very good way to be able to name it in regards to themes. And then lastly, in regards to the naming of the Ridgeview room, one of the things that we surveyed was the Ridgeview room specifically because the Ridgeview itself, you really can't see anymore. So we asked the community in regards to that. The responses that we received from that and the AAC reviewed felt that the Ridgeview name should be retained. A lot of the survey results also indicated that as well. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. That was kind of the mantra that was being said. But they did suggest adding artwork to the room to represent the ridge line that you could previously see from the facility. So that was a recommendation from the Arts Advisory Committee. These recommendations were taken to the facility committee on January 25th. And the facility committee decided to select a process from the facility, park, and naming policy to review the public input and select a recommended name for approval by the commission. The name by the Arts Advisory Committee was reviewed by the Parks and Community Services Facility Committee, and they reviewed the survey data and agreed with the Arts Advisory Committee's recommendations. And the recommendations were to, again, rename the Doherty Station Community Center the Doherty Station Community Arts Center, to name the rooms theme, interior room names based on function, and if there were multiple rooms, use a number identifier, and then also to retain the Ridgeview name as well. And in regards to fiscal impact, the costs for renaming the facility is approximately $20,000 to $30,000, with a large chunk of that in regards to the monument signs that we have. So a new monument sign would need to get produced for that. Currently, there's not funding for the name change, and so we would need to be able to identify funding for that if we're going to rename and update the monument sign. We are looking into a public art project to be able to replace the monument sign with a public art project. And if we did that, then the funds could actually come out of the Art and City Beautification Fund. So there could be a funding source for that. that would take a little bit of time. As you know, a lot of our public art projects do take a bit of time. So we would be able to fund a temporary signage over the monument sign coming up here. And then the cost for changing the interior room names with plaques and sorts of things would be around $2,000 in regards to cost for that. So with that, that's the recommendation from the Arts Advisory Committee and from the Facility Committee.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're going to go clarifying questions, public comment, and then I'll want to hear from the Facilities Committee, and then we'll go to general comments from the commissioners. So any clarifying questions? You might have one. Okay, let us know when you've decided.
I do have one.
Okay, great.
Hey,
Okay.
Adam, on the Ridge Room, is the artwork in the Ridge Room gonna be like, what is it? Is it gonna change out or is it permanent?
So currently there's no artwork in the Ridgeview room. There's a recommendation to add artwork to it, and that would go through a process of to be able to obtain that artwork and identify it and those sorts of things. So it's a recommendation from the Arts Advisory Committee and. the
Gotcha.
facility.
I'm good with that answer. So, okay, and then the other thing is, how long do we go till we put the sign in? Usually we don't have funding for the sign. So
if we were
how
going
long
to,
does it take to get funding for that?
so if we went through replacing the current monument sign as it currently is, it'd have to go through a cycle. I'm going to look at Kathy on this one.
Yeah, it would have to go into the CIP and the
Yep.
sign replacement program to be included in next year's fiscal year. And then we'd have to see if we get the funding. And then if we could, then it would get put in there and then we would order another sign and get it put in. So, somewhere between 6 months and a year, because it's a big granite sign.
Okay, so the only reason I asked is we would be done with Doherty Station, would the sign be done at the same time? Would we put in at the same time?
No,
Okay,
absolutely not.
that's
Because
what I thought.
We don't have the funding and we don't have the time.
Yep.
Any way you slice and dice it, a temporary sign needs to go in.
Yep.
And
Okay.
with the center, and then the point being the monument sign, or maybe making something very artistic that's done by an artist would
Mhm.
kind of really label that as an art center. That's the concept.
Yeah, and Adam, the only reason I'm asking this question is once it's all done, how do we communicate to the public the name change and kind of what we're doing? So you gotta have your branding done, and then how do you do outreach? So thanks.
Okay, Vice Chair Dorlick.
I just wanted to, focus on the fact that there was a very long conversation, discussion. So the Arts Advisory Committee looked at every angle, every possibility. With a lot of respect to cultural modifications regarding the naming of the rooms and et cetera. I think at one point Adam wanted to use the Teenage Mutant Turtles. They were going to be a little too
No.
Eurocentric.
It didn't work. Yeah,
but
okay.
That didn't work, but there was really a good conversation. So.
Yeah.
The Arts Advisory Committee has some new members and they've been contributing quite a bit. And also the in-person dynamic has really been, very much accentuated, since it came back from the Zoom meetings. I think that interaction is really
Important, yeah.
a lot of great conversations and
Yeah.
a lot of great thought.
Yeah, great. Any other clarifying questions? Hearing none. Do we have any public comment? Okay, so let's go to our Facilities Committee to see if they want to get the ball rolling.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chair. And thank you. Thanks for the beautiful presentation on that. And we did talk during our facility committee meeting in depth on the naming options, clarifying questions, a lot of questions on that. So I think the choices we thought as a committee, the choices that Art Advisory Committee made was a good one. Although we had different other options as well, we thought about it, but finally we all agreed that Doherty Station Community Art Center is the right one on that, with the internal naming with the functional with a number if there is a multiple rooms on that. So that was that, and keep the Ridgeview room same on that. So we agreed on that. There was some discussions happened about the big budget it needed for the monument sign change. That was a bummer on that, because we thought that would be a good idea to have that ready when we open up the art center, but it's not going to happen. So we know that. So with that, I think we as a facility committee will go with all the suggestions made by Art Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Commissioner Oslin, did you want to add to that?
I just want to concur with Commissioner Mitra that we really listened to all the information that Adam shared with us. And you really captured it well in the report here. And yes, there were a couple other names that we had some discussion about, but what we found was most important is we wanted to have the word community in there, and we wanted it to be simple and clear. And we reviewed all the feedback that we got from the community as well. But I think what it really boiled down to is really listening to our Arts Advisory Committee and the feedback that that you shared with us around their discussions help kind of really solidify our endorsement of what had been put forward. So that's all I wanted to add.
Thank you. Yeah, and I would just add to that, that I feel that in the facilities committee meeting, it was clear that they did have, to your point, Vice Chair, like a really robust conversation, and they really took it seriously and really invested some good thought into it. So I think it was clear to all of us that had happened and the process worked. And so any other commissioner comments? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion, and I would ask that you please refer to the agenda packet and actually verbalize the motion that you're making with the details.
Okay, I would move that we approve the Doherty Station interior and exterior name changes recommended by the Arts Advisory Committee and the Parks and Community Services Commission Facility Committee, and move it to do we need to move to the city council for their approval?
Are we moving it to city council, or are we're doing it, right? We're doing it.
It's all ours, just cut it off, it's facility committee.
Okay, and then can you read the names, the bullets? Yeah. Right here. These three.
Oh, okay, you want that?
Yeah.
Okay, I got you. And then to rename the Doherty Station Community Center to Doherty Station Community Arts Center. Rename the interior rooms based on function, and in the case of multiple rooms with the same function, including number as an identifier. And retain the Ridge Room name and add artwork to the room that is reflective of the ridge line. So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Commissioner Mitra, I have a second. All right, let's take a vote. Okay, so just hit the green one if you're voting for, or the red if you're voting against. Okay. All right, so motion passes 7-0. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you so much.
Good job. Woo! I love it. I am, as an aside, I know we voted, but this is sort of an aside thing. I'm excited about the idea of maybe using a public art project as the sign there. I think that's a really neat, I mean, it just makes sense on so many levels. So thank you for that. All righty. Onward and upward. Okay, so we're going to go to item 8.3, and we get to review the 2023-24 draft fee resolution. And May is going to lead us through that. How do you pronounce your last name, May?
Malinik.
Malinik. Okay, thank you for telling me that.
Good evening, commissioners. Today's meeting will cover the proposed 23-24 fee resolution draft. Each suggested fee will be outlined on a slide. At the end of each slide, I will pause to take any clarifying questions given the amount of slides that we have, but we can take any additional questions after the entire presentation. The criteria that the staff used to set these fees include fee surveys, market research of both our neighboring Tri-Valley cities, along with any like facility cities along the 680 corridor. Other criteria includes rising costs due to maintenance or professional service contract agreements. The increase in contracts typically correlate with the Bay Area Consumer Price Index, known as CPI, published by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. The CPI for October 2022 was listed as a 6% increase of area prices compared to the previous year. Using these criteria, staff recommends the following fee increases to offset rising costs while maintaining a flat budget with at least a 50% cost recovery goal. In addition, staff also considers discounted rates for adults over the age of 65 in aquatics and cultural arts to encourage participation and the overall value and benefit to this community. So for fee number 1, this is add facility deposits for artists and sound studios. This is found on page 34 of your staff report. There is no anticipated impact on the revenue. This is proposing a new fee for facility deposit for our new artists and sound studio rooms. And this deposit also matches the facility deposit of our small room, which is also $125. For fee number 2, this is add fee for expedited rentals found on page 34 of your schedule. The fiscal impact is an estimated revenue increase of $6,800 per year. This is proposing a new fee of $170 for reservations on larger rooms that are made less than 30 days in advance. This also proposes a new fee that is in addition to our regular rental rates. Yes. Correct. The current.
Yeah. I think it's just for expedited rentals. So in other words, if you rent in like 3 months in advance, this wouldn't apply to you. This is only a last minute.
Right. I'm just trying to calculate like, okay, if it is like $100, is it like $270 for expedited?
No, sorry, the room fees stay the room fees for the rental. So if you're renting the Ridgeview room, it's going to be whatever that fee was for the Ridgeview room. This fee is to have it expedited due to the customer or the client wanting the fast return because it's so close to the rental date.
I see. So room fees is room fees. This is an extra because I am trying to book something less than 30 days.
Correct, because the
One time.
staffing in order to execute it, to get it done within that short period of time is correct. That's what the fee is trying to recoup.
Okay.
Okay, so the room hasn't been rented. We get it rented when it hadn't been rented. And the fee covers wouldn't it be dependent upon what the room is being rented for, what the calculation would be? Because that's kind of contrary to most.
It's for bigger facilities.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you get discounted rooms or discounted tickets, when it's closer to the time of the event, based upon the fact that you not have revenue for that.
No.
Wouldn't this, I mean, it seems contrary to like how most people would.
Correct. The challenge is the staffing that is needing to flip the reservation within that short period of time to execute it. And it's not all rooms. It's just for the large rooms for those type of events, because normally they're wanting more. There's more to go into the rental to get it approved.
Okay, so it's not dependent upon what would need to be done. It's just because it's a larger room.
Correct. And Keith,
Regardless of the event, it would be charged.
correct. Keith might be able to better explain it because then.
Can I ask first, Nate? So do I understand your process correctly? You want these questions on a slide by slide basis, is that correct?
Correct, for clarifying questions.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Hey Heidi,
Okay,
can
yeah.
I just kind of a clarification? Can we talk about what we did as a subcommittee if we're going to do slide by slide? Because I think it'll help answer a lot of questions that may come up.
What I recall is this was new. This is a new added fee.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's
It's
cost
not been
recovery.
there.
And it's cost recovery, right? When we look at the principle is how do you get cost recovery of the labor that's involved? And that's what the way to think is how do we break even? So one principle we looked at is when we went through this is what is it? What are you trying to do? And it's breaking even. So there's some principles as I went through it to make sure that everything that they're recommending, the staff's recommending, one, is it defendable? If you said, why are we doing it? 2, is with principle based, and 3, is it cost recovery or not cost recovery? So that's all, that's when we went through the fees, that's what we as a subcommittee looked at as those simple principles. We can talk about other things later on, but I think that's a good guiding thing that when Commissioner Lopez Lucy and Commissioner Osmond looked at it, we tried to say those were the kind of key principles we looked at. So something to keep in mind as you go through on that. So I don't know if that helps or not.
No, it does. It just seems that it's a fixed fee for a variation of possible services.
Yeah.
So let me interrupt here. So
yeah.
Kathy, given that questions sometimes very naturally lead to either clarification from the committee that dealt with it or further opinion,
are we gonna be real strict about having this being clarifying questions at this stage, or do we let the discussion go a little more organically?
It's your choice, whatever you would like to do at this point in time. The key point is that we do have to eventually go to public comment on the items, so we may come back around some of these
So
discussions.
what I would suggest is if the committee feels like they have information to answer a question that a commissioner has asked, that is valid at this stage of the game, but then let's reserve sort of more general stuff for the end, so that we can get to public comment. Is that fair?
Yeah,
Okay.
I do have a comment
You
on
do?
that.
Okay.
Yeah, for answering part of Will's thing
Okay.
is if you're in doing this, a lot of renting facility spaces. If there's a lot of paperwork that you have to go through and there's a lot of procedures, and it's understandable that when you say only a week ahead of when your event, it's going to cause them to do really actual event, things that's going to happen in a week. Whereas sometimes you have to have things in 90 days or 60 days prior to. So they do have to go through a lot of extra work when you rent something that at that late. And so we discussed that at our meeting also.
Commissioner Ellicott, that's what you wanted to add.
Yeah, I actually just want to ask that we table the discussion on this particular item, because if I'm understanding Will's thought process, it is one that also occurred to me, which is his question is, why would you add 170 versus leaving the room vacant perhaps? And so I think that's a discussion for later. And I think this is like the expedited passport fee kind of a thing where, there's a cost involved, but that's a qualitative. I think this is a discussion for
Point well taken. Yeah, okay, let's continue.
So for fee number 3, rename and increase fees for special event applications found on page 36. The fiscal impact is an estimated revenue increase of $3,500 per year. There are 3 components to this particular fee, and we did take feedback from the finance meeting that we had previously regarding this certain fee. So part 1, proposed renaming application special event permit to special event permit application tier 3. Part 2 is proposing a new special event permit application for tier 2, fee of $300. And part 3 is proposing renaming the non-permitted park special event fee to special event permit application tier 1 and increasing the fee from $50 to $100 per application. So just to clarify, the first tier, which is actually tier 3, there's no change to the fee. It's just changing the name to tier 3. And then tier 2, that is a brand new fee. And then tier 1 is updating the name and also updating the fee from 50 to 100.
Any questions? Okay.
For fee number 4, updating the fees for the gallery exhibits. This would be an estimated decrease in revenue of $95 per year. There are 2 components to this one as well. The first part is removing the Lindsay Dirk Brown non-resident and nonprofit group rates. We did an evaluation of additional galleries that are in the area and found that no similar galleries had a non-resident or nonprofit group rate. Secondly, this would be adjusting the Doherty Station Community Center gallery rate from $30 for 2 months plus a 20% commission to $30 per month with the same 20% commission on all sales.
Yeah, so you're increasing from 2 months to 2 months, $30 to monthly $30. And that was, if I remember correctly, that was based on some survey that you guys did, right? Because it's a.
Yes, and that's based on anticipated increased facility usage, a renovated gallery, and a potential increase in the gallery space. And it's also the same fee as what's in City Hall and the Alcosta Senior and Community Center.
Okay.
For fee number 5, increasing fees for indoor facility rental of Amador Rancho Community Center found on pages 40 through 42. This is an estimated revenue increase of $16,566 per year. This is proposing an increase in the resident fee by $10 at the Amador Rancho Community Center and also restructuring the nonprofit and non-resident rates. So where the actual increase, that's the resident rate itself. So for example, Bella Vista, if you're looking at the proposed weekday rate, that's changing from 95 to 105. And for the Russell or Bella Vista A or B room, that would be changing from 70 to 80. And then we adjusted the scale so that way the nonprofit rate would be 50% of the resident rate, and the non-resident rate would be 25% above the resident rate. Yes.
So if I did it correctly, that means the nonprofit rate goes down?
It can, yes. So for example, the Bella Vista weekday rate for nonprofit, that went down from 60 to 53.
Right, yeah, okay, thanks.
For fee number 6, this is adding a fee for indoor facility rental of the Doherty Station Community Center new second floor program room found on pages 40 through 42. This is an estimated revenue increase of $4,870 per year. This is proposing a new rental fee for the second floor program room. The nonprofit group rate would be $33 an hour on the weekday, $48 on the weekend. The resident rate is $65 an hour on the weekday and $95 on the weekend. And non-resident commercial is $82 an hour on the weekday and $119 on the weekend. These rates are equivalent to the West Meeting Room since they are similar in size. Fee number 7 is add fee for indoor facility rental of Doherty Station Community Center Artists and Sound Studios found on page 42. This would be an estimated revenue increase of $34,950 per year. This is a brand new fee for the brand new artist studio, and then also a new fee for the sound studio. For number 8, increase fees for hourly field rentals. These for the grass fields in particular. This is an estimated revenue increase of $24,000 per year. This is proposing to increase the hourly field rental rates for the grass fields by $1. This recommendation reflects the previously endorsed 8-year plan to increase the hourly field rental fees. The planned method of increasing hourly field rental fees has positively affected user groups and the city. The user groups are able to plan and budget as necessary, and the city sees a steady and predictable increase in yearly revenue to offset the maintenance costs. Number 9 is to increase hourly rental fees for our fitness permits, tournament fees, special events, field lights, synthetic fields, sand volleyball courts, storage facilities, and batting cages. For the fitness permits, that's found on page 36. The remaining items are pages 46 and 47. This is an estimated revenue increase of $15,000 per year. We're proposing to increase the fees for all of these in particular by 6% and rounding up to the next whole dollar. Number 10, increase fees for the Doherty Station Community Center Front Row Theater. Hourly rates for technical in-house staff found on page 48. This would have no impact on revenue. We are proposing to increase the hourly rates for their staff from $35 to $36.50 due to our negotiated contract with Venue Tech. For number 11, increase fees for the Doherty Valley Performing Arts Center Theater on pages 50 and 51. This is an estimated revenue increase of $7,800. And we're proposing to increase these rates due to the results of a local theater rental rate survey and the continued growth in demand. Staff is recommending a 6% increase to offset costs.
Can I go back to the tech?
Sure.
At 3650, is that a going rate? It just intuitively seems low for technical staff at the theater.
That was to also include just minimum wage, but I believe that the overall rate, is that already in our Venue Tech contract, Brad?
Yes, that's the staffing rate that the Venue Tech charges us, and then what we charge the client.
Okay.
Okay, so for number 12, ad fee for the Front Row Theater and Doherty Valley Performing Arts Center Theater complimentary ticket fees. This is an estimated revenue increase of $4,500 per year. This is a new fee of $2.50 for complimentary tickets given by rental clients to their VIPs, such as parents or board members, that exceed 5% of the house capacities at either theater. So in particular, when you're looking at the $2.50, $2 of that ticket is going to our Cultural Growth Fund, and then 50 cents of the ticket is going to the actual processing fees that we have to pay to our ticket vendor. Any questions?
What was the percentage of capacity of the theater or of the tickets sold?
It's based on capacities.
Okay, okay, great, thank you.
For number 13, clarification of San Ramon Olympic Pool and Aquatic Park and Doherty Valley Aquatic Center 2-day rental fee found on page 53. This is just a clarification to the fee resolution schedule itself, that this is an actual 2-day fee, not a single day fee. For number 14, increased fees for San Ramon Olympic Pool and Aquatic Park and Doherty Valley Aquatic Center special event and lane use fees. A few components to this particular one. The first one is increasing the San Ramon Olympic Pool and Doherty Valley Aquatic Center special event fees by 6% and rounding to the nearest whole dollar. The second part would be proposing to increase the combined lane rental and lifeguard fees for the 25-yard course. Third part is proposing to increase the combined lane rental and lifeguard fees for the 50-meter course. And then I believe there's a fourth part, and that's to propose to increase special event and private rental lifeguard fees by 50 cents. Any questions? Okay, and we are on our last one. Number 15 is another clarification of the San Ramon Olympic Pool and Aquatic Park and Doherty Valley Aquatic Center inflatable obstacle course rental fees. There's no anticipated impact on revenue on this one. This is simply clarifying that this is an hourly fee. Great. And with that, I'll be happy to field any questions. And once, if there are any recommendations, this would move forward to the City Council Finance Committee on March 6th.
So I'm gonna open it up to any last minute clarifying questions. Then I want to go to the Finance Committee to see if they want to get the discussion rolling with any insights or what have you. And then we'll go to General Commissioner comments. So any clarifying questions? Oh, wait, and public comments, sorry. So last question, clarifying questions first.
Just
have
one, do we have a total revenue impact of all the fee increases?
We do not. That would be,
Okay.
we can get that for you for a future meeting.
Right, do we have any public comment, guys? No, no public comment. Okay, thank you. All right, so Commissioner Brave, you want to get the ball rolling?
Sure. Well, it's not Commissioner Breed, it's Commissioner Osland and Commissioner Lopez Lewis. We're a team.
Well, you're the
I know,
chair
but
of
we are a team
Oh,
finance
you're
committee.
that type.
Yeah,
got
okay.
it. Okay.
No, and I want to thank them because they're amazing to help out. So, hey, just, if you take a look at the fees, one thing I think everyone needs to keep in mind is Kathy told me when it first started is that we're 50% cost recovery. And that's really important that we know, and that citizens of San Ramon know. And then as we went through it, are we principal based on what we're raising fees on? So in your report, May called out that, we had a 6% CPI increase. So the goal is how do we keep our costs down for our citizens while maintaining our costs and hitting the 50% cost recovery. We also have principles in here that says nonprofits get 50% less. And then also that non-residents pay 25% more. So think about the residence fee being the fee that they're calculating the 50% loss and the 25% upcharge. The other principle that you got to think about when you're looking at this is the other thing that may be outside this principle is market price. Remember that staff goes out and looks at what we're charging versus Concord or Pleasanton, or, what is market bear cost, and are we over or under? So if you see adjustments, it's because of market bear pricing. And then another principle is cost recovery. So the ticket thing, 50 cents and the $2, there's, 50 cents is a cost recovery, the $2 is a policy. That's a good example of where staff is just going off of what the rules of the road are, basically. The last thing I would tell you is that the policy, we went through each one of these to make sure the math, this is I was bored, I guess, but made sure the math worked each spot. So meaning, did we go up 6%? Are we in a defendable spot if all of a sudden the citizens of San Ramon, am I blocking you again? Sorry. I'm just trying to talk about, all of a sudden, if someone comes and says, why did you raise this price? The goal was, are we in the defendable position from a price increase? And if we are, how do we explain it? And May did a nice job walking through and made sure that we're in defendable position. So I think when you take a look at, that's what we looked at and went through each one pretty detailed. I guess Brad and Keith and May had to put up with me, but anyway, so Commissioner Osland or Lopez Lucy, am I missing anything?
You guys want to add?
Yeah, I think what we did was really try to be consistent with across the board. And we saw that there was some inconsistency and tried to get things closer to, being consistent. So there was a lot of effort in the discussion around that. And the fee, we're still doing just feedback from the policy.
I would say, yeah.
That when we talked about, I can't remember that night, add the fee for expedited rental. It was really clearly explained that this is a hardship on the staff and that there's a cost for that. And, when someone really wants to rent a room, they're going to rent a room. It doesn't really matter whatever they have extra they have to pay. But I felt that this was, when we discussed this, it seemed like a very fair, equitable way to give the person or a group who wants to rent the room and cover the hardship costs for the staff and the city. So just know that we did really talk about these things in pretty detail. I really want to thank Commissioner Breed for, refreshing us with these principles and, kind of sticking to that as we went through this discussion. So.
And we're going to go back to number 2 and get a little bit more into it, because I know there are others that want to dig into that one a little more specifically, but do you have some general comments?
No, I think Commissioner Breed did it very well, summarized for us. Thank you for that. And I think we did really take our time to go through each one and really scrutinize, why and whatever. And I think that we were very thorough. So I think, and you did an excellent job tonight representing this.
Okay, so I know we're going to dig, I know you've got your hand up. We're going to dig deep into that number 2, the 30-day expedited thing.
We don't need to.
Well, no, I'd like to, and I
Okay,
think
okay.
others would like to.
I just want
Yeah, go
to
ahead.
make a general comment.
Yeah.
With this comment.
Yeah.
It's much easier to be in a defensible position when you review it annually and the incremental increase is small and not noticeable. It's much harder to have it when
Big chunky ones, yeah.
a 25%
Yeah.
increase rather than a 4% increase. So I think that's important. And we've been reviewing fees on an annual basis, in perpetuity. And that's important. It's also important to look at the comparison with other, nearby
Very,
municipalities,
yeah.
because you are in competition,
Yeah.
with other, municipalities for facility usage.
Right.
We see that with some of our sports fields.
Yeah.
In particular, the cricket fields. So the fact that we do it every year and have that review is the important part, because it does allow it to be incremental and, quite honestly, not noticeable. And that's key.
Commissioner Mitra, were you going to give a general comment or?
General comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, May and the Finance Committee really appreciate the extra effort you guys put in to think it through. And have something like 6%, which is reasonable. It feels like going through all the expenses that we are incurring across the board. Now, from here, I see this is very reasonable. It's 6%, 50 cents here, $1.50 there. But at the same time, I have another role where we organize big events. Nonprofit organizations organize big events. And looking at any kind of across the board, the inflation level for the last couple of years is just mind-boggling. If you want to host any event, you know that your expenses gone up 30-40%, no matter what you do, no matter how big the thing is. From that point of view, any sort of raising prices is equally adding extra hit on any event that local organizations are going to do that. Now, I'm not disagreeing that we need to, because our city expenses also gone higher. So we had to somehow recoup that money on that. But we have to be mindful that other organizations, other individual persons who are going to rent this, they are already paying extra what they used to pay 2 years back. On top of that, we are also putting extra burden on them, on that extra thing. So I'm not saying we should not do that, but we have to be mindful on that as well. Because the person who are going to rent that, they're already hit by other areas as well on that. And we are hitting them again on raising the prices again on there. So just wanted to say that.
Yeah, for sure. So the way I'd like to proceed is, I know that there are a couple of us that want to dig into the expedited rental fee. So we're going to start with that. And then after that, I'm going to ask, are there any of these proposed fees that people have concerns about or are objecting to? And then we'll take them. I don't think we're going to run into a lot of those, but let's start with the 30-day expedited fee. And Heidi, do you want to start with that?
Actually, I had a general comment I wanted to start with.
Yeah, we'll let you do general too.
Thank you. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness with which the city, the Parks and Community Service Commission has drafted this proposal. I also very much appreciate, and it's very clear to me, thank you, Commissioner Breed, for your detail in helping us understand what goes into this. I do want to emphasize and underline the fact that I appreciate how we are thoughtful about what residents pay and our local nonprofit and co-sponsored residents, because we do pay taxes and then pay fees. And so I think it's really, really important to recognize that they should have a level of financial priority in being able to use the facilities. And we want that. That's part of one of the intangibles aside from market price and all the other financial factors that go in and are critical and are important because we want to make sure our city stays solvent, but we also want to make sure that this, and I think you guys have done that from what I'm seeing, prioritize actually using the facilities and getting to the intangibles, which are a healthy, connected community that values the resources. I appreciate what other cities are doing when we look into that for market prices. I also think that on a level, if we can afford it, we don't necessarily need to charge higher market prices if we're trying to prioritize nonprofit resident kind of uses, as long as we can afford it, et cetera. So I really appreciate the principles going into that. I would rather our community stay in our community rather than going somewhere else and use our facilities and bring the community together. So I think that cannot be underestimated. Excuse me?
No.
I think that it cannot be underestimated, those intangibles. So I want us, as we proceed through this, to keep that in mind. I want our community to use our facilities, and if it's affordable, we should do that and make sure we're not raising unnecessarily. As to, I'll just go ahead and comment on this. It struck me briefly, I think the way Commissioner Dorlick may have thought of it, which is, wait, we'd rather leave a facility empty than, not recoup, not actually, provide that service first fundamentally, as well as, of course, getting the cost recovery around it. I do understand that it creates extra work and, forces our employees and staff to have to reprioritize their regular work. So I can't remember the word you used, but I was like, no, that's not the right word. I think what it does is it forces us to reprioritize other important work and setting it aside. I think there's real value to the possibility of doing this. I want to be thoughtful that it doesn't create an undue burden where it doesn't need to, but I don't know where that line is. And I trust and respect the staff that you guys are going to look at that additional fee where it's warranted. If, for example, I think Commissioner Dorlick was suggesting if it doesn't create extra work, if it's a low key use, perhaps there is an opportunity in certain circumstances that you have the discretion to waive the fee when it makes sense. And, ultimately, I do want to make sure our nonprofits and our different groups within the community are able to participate, as long as it doesn't create that undue burden. And so I appreciate that, but I think that's what I have to say for that for now.
Okay, I'm actually going to jump in on that and then I'll continue down the road. And Kathy, did you want to respond to hers or can I go ahead and go ahead?
Well, I just wanted to make sure I threw something out there because I'm not sure that the commission's clear on this. Just because we recommended a certain dollar amount doesn't mean that it has to be that dollar amount. And so as I listen to you all talk, I wonder if the concept of the fee is not bad, but the dollar amount may be too high. And although it's covering cost, it is within the purview to say, hey, you know what, we think it would be better if it was $100 expedited fee versus $172. And then we slowly creep that up if it turns out we need to use it or we get some data on how it's used.
Okay.
So it's also an option not to forward it.
Right.
Option
Yeah.
to change it. And so there's a little
Yeah.
room in there.
Thank you for letting us know the options. Commissioner Dorlick had a clarifying question.
Yeah, I didn't see, or maybe I missed it, a definition of whether the nonprofit is a resident nonprofit. If much in some of the other facility rentals, it has to be a certain percentage of San Ramon residents to be considered a nonprofit resident. So I don't remember seeing how we define, nonprofit. Is it just
In
ubiquitous
general,
nonprofit, or is it a nonprofit that is headquartered in the city?
the nonprofit is anyone that has a 501c3.
So it's just a blanket 501c3, and whether you're in actually headquartered in San Ramon or your mailing address is San Ramon, it's just, blanketed there. Okay, and just one comment on the fee. I don't see how it's extra work. It's actually, there wasn't work before, so it was work to get the facility ready. And if it's one of the larger rooms, it's going to be a last minute thing. Somebody's going to say, they're not going to have a wedding that's been planned for 6 months and say, oh, it's 30 days before we're looking for a room, right? It's going to be somebody that says, holy cow, there's a room available. Why don't we get it? So I'm seeing some incongruity in between, the extra work. I don't see it as extra work. I see it as that's what staff gets paid to do. They get paid to prepare.
Yeah.
Whether it needs to be reprioritized or not, is another question, but so, I don't think it's going to stop anybody from renting the room, but it was kind of like defining it as extra work is I just don't see how that's, where it's extra work. It's the work that people are hired to do is to do and prepare rooms. And it's not going to be a long-term thing. It's going to be a short-term.
Yeah.
Someone's going to look at it and go, oh my gosh, there's a room available.
Yeah.
Let's, do this.
Yeah, I'm going to jump in on this and then Commissioner Reacher will go to you next. Okay. I'm sorry.
We're going to work down the.
Oh, no, I'm going off the list.
Oh.
See, I thought the same thing.
Yeah, well, no, we went through the facilities people. Anyway, I'm just going to jump in and then I'll go to Commissioner Reacher and then I'll go to you. Okay, so having been a professional event planner, I understand what it takes to put on these big events, having done events for thousands and thousands of people. But when I saw the 30-day threshold, it seemed excessive to me. It didn't seem to fit the expedited definition for me. Okay. And so I understand, I do understand not wanting to discourage people from utilizing it because that's where we gain our revenue. I also very much understand the work that's created for staff when we have last minute rentals. So my thought was, we could possibly entertain a tighter definition of expedited, number one, perhaps a 2-week thing, because for me, that's pushing it. And that merits extra funding. And I think anybody who came to rent something would say, yeah, it's expedited within 2 weeks. 30 days wasn't necessarily meshing with me. And then that could even be potentially combined with maybe 125 or something like that. So I do appreciate that Kathy's giving us options, which I hadn't even thought of as the start, because, you know, we kind of look at what staff recommends seriously. But for me, it was the definition of expedited that I think needed some tweaking. So that's all I was going to mention about that. And the other thing was, because Heidi, you sort of mentioned possibly, waiving fees. And I think that's a real rabbit hole. It's a sticky wicket because you want to have consistent policies. So I wouldn't recommend going down that, but I know where you're coming from. So those were my suggestions on that. Commissioner Mitra, and then Commissioner Osley.
Go ahead, you can go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah, please.
thank you.
Sure.
Well, the way I took all of this is, 30 days for a big event is really not very much time to be able to pull it together. So more than likely, this will probably, I guess my question is, how often does this happen?
That's a good question.
Does it happen? Very often for a large event.
May, do you need some assistance?
Yes.
Sorry, just to step in here real quick. Staff estimates that it's roughly 40 times a year.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And so.
This is large events.
Correct. And it's
Okay.
only for the large and grand size rooms in which there's those extras that come along with those types of rentals, which could be for food permits, ABC license. It's those extra pieces that have to be chased down, that if the staff isn't picking up the phone constantly to get that stuff, it's not going to happen. So it is work that was not there before, that was not planned to be there, and now all of a sudden is. The 30-day limit is 30 days, but that event could be at 21 days. It could be at 14 days. At some point, there's too much extra paperwork to get from external agencies to make it happen. So we thought 30 days was an appropriate window. So I'll leave it at that.
And I think the word I used was hardship on the staff, because that was articulated in our meeting about how it just, of all the hoops, all the paperwork, and there's just a lot that goes into it. So my feeling, I'm glad to hear kind of the quantity. I'm kind of surprised actually that there's that many. Isn't there a saying, your poor planning is not my emergency, but I felt I really heard what impact this has on rescheduling, reprioritizing. I've managed a lot of big projects and have events and things. And when someone comes in and then they're panic, and then it's like, oh my gosh, we have to rejuggle. And it's not an easy task. And there's a cost involved, stress, longer hours. There's just a lot of pieces to this. So, it seemed logical when we had our conversation with what was presented.
Commissioner Mitra?
Yeah. So about this one, when I was going through that, I was just thinking about it. If I had to do that for some reason, I'm not going to rent a big room for my big event, only 30 days planning for that. I'm not going to do that. I'll be probably planning for 8 months ahead of time.
That's
The reason I'm coming to 30 days because something happened. I might have lost my room. Something happened.
Yeah, something.
Right?
happened. Mhm.
This at that point, again, don't take me wrong. It feels like I'm being penalized. Right? Something happened. 170, first of all, and thank you, Kathy, for giving the option. 170 feels like a little too stiff for that situation, because I'm trying to get these things done, right? And something happened. And also, thank you for bringing this up, that if the 30 days can be reconsidered, I would really support that. because 30 days.
The 30 days.
30 days we can say, you said like 2 weeks.
Oh, to
right?
reduce it.
2 weeks.
Okay.
So if we can balance that like 2 weeks or something like that and reconsider the 170 to say it's probably a reasonable amount on that, probably that will be a good thing in that, because 30 days, 170, it sounded a little bit too high, too stiff for me.
Commissioner Breed,
Well, thanks.
you're welcome.
Hey, Keith, question for you. How do we come up with I know you walked through, but the 30 days and the cost, the way I understood with cost recovered, but why 30 days versus 14, like Heidi's suggesting? Are we still not covering? So just if you get that, help us understand the number of days. So if we did cut it down, what is the effect of that?
So the 30 days was really picked because this is the make or break point of having that event. Having a 2-week window, there's going to be very few people that can actually pull it off in 2 weeks. And then it actually makes the fee inconsequential because no one's going to use it, right? It's really that 3 to 4 weeks out, last minute, you're correct. Something may have happened. And unfortunately, this may sound rough, but that happened to them. And now the city is helping them out resolve an issue. And for that, there is work to be there. And because of that body of work, the walkthroughs, the explaining of all the permits, the explaining of the policies, the setup of the room, that all takes time now to be fit into a schedule that's already been planned out through weekly work plans or monthly work plans. So that's really what we're looking at. And the 170, is it 170 flat? 170 is the facility tech hourly rate times 2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah. So, and Keith, did you look at possibly doing a resident versus a non-resident fee? So let's just say, if we say, hey, if Steve Breed came in, I'm living here and I need it, could we charge a resident $100 for it? And then when we know 170 is cost recovery, so do we charge a resident a lower fee? Did you guys look at that?
We did not look at that. Simply, upon calculation of the fee, we simply went off of the hourly fee.
Yep.
And if I can maybe help the conversation.
Yeah.
There may be a possibility that the commission would like us to look at, I'm going to use the word complicated rentals versus easy rentals. If it's a simple set up the chairs and tables or audience style, maybe that's one consideration. But then these other events that are more complicated, the other permits come in, the licenses come in, then maybe we should be considering that. So maybe I'll just throw that out.
I yield to Chair
Yeah,
Commissioner
'cause
Doyle.
he has a question for Keith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One comment and one clarifying question. So, a penalty is a penalty, I don't think you prorate it based upon whether you're a resident or not. I mean, because if it's covering a cost, it's gonna cover a cost whether you're a resident or a nonprofit or whatever. But my real question was, I've put on events in the city. And I had to get the liquor license. I had to get the health,
Right.
permit for food. The city didn't get me the permit for the liquor license. I went down to the ABC office in Oakland on 50. So that was something that clicked in my mind. Said, wait a minute, we're not getting the permits because we're not hosting the event from a city standpoint, because that transfers the liability for the liquor
Yeah.
licenses.
They're making sure they're secured. Yeah.
Right. And good point. I would classify you as a good rental room renter then. And unfortunately, and unfortunately, we have people that do come at the last minute, are frazzled, don't really know where they're going, what they're supposed to be doing. And we, to some degree, have to handhold people through the process. So there is that.
All right, yeah, I had my experience.
No, you can't. That's
I
your
do
thing.
that, so
Okay.
that was my question.
Okay, well, let me first check. Okay, Commissioner Breed, were you done? You had yielded the
I'm
floor.
done. So I just want to make sure why we picked 30 days, what was involved. So thank you
Okay,
very much.
so I'm gonna go.
I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna go to Commissioner Lopez Lucy, and we still have a couple more comments on the doc, or at least one on the docket here.
Well, I think, what you're saying is there are a lot of people that do plan things and don't realize you need a, a ABC permit, or you need a permit with the health department and all that. I worked with many, many people that don't even realize those things. And you have to be within a certain time, or you can't get an ABC license or a health permit, because they'll charge you extra if you're not in there before 2 weeks. And the ABC doesn't want it before 1 month. So, I mean, you got to work, but it is a lot of
Wait,
work.
that's an
because-
important distinction, what you just said, about not wanting it before 1 month, right?
Right, so
Yeah.
they'll send it back. I put ours in on an event here in the city. And I got it in,
Early.
5 weeks or
Yeah.
something.
Mhm.
They sent it right back to me.
Yeah.
And told me we don't accept it until it's after 1 month.
That's an
So I
important
put it in the
distinction. Mhm.
envelope and sent it back. But,
They're actually
But-
the most efficient government agency.
but, there's so many rules and regulations that you have to follow for everything you're doing. It's remarkable. And if you have to go to a person who's being one of your vendors or something, and it's from a different county, you have to get that county's permission that they have a license that they can work in your thing. And that doesn't always take 2 or 3 days. So there are reasons that I can see the 30 days.
Okay, Commissioner Alcala, did you have additional stuff you want to say?
Yep.
Go for it.
Can you, just before I finish my comment, what room are we talking about as an example? Are we talking about the fountain room?
Yes.
Okay.
Fountain room, terrace room, ridge room,
Perfect.
and Bella Vista room.
So, I understand we don't want to go down the slippery slope or the sticky wicket, but I do think it is. I support the additional fee for a time frame that, you guys have the expertise, and it may be 30 days. But I do think either there needs to be some contours around what constitutes a more complicated rental, or the ability to waive the fee for a non-complicated rental with some definitions and examples. The lawyer in me, write it out. It's not perfect, but do including but not limited to, for example, right? But here's like what's popping around in my head. My 66 person soccer program at the high school does not want to be in the commons and do a potluck dessert for their banquet this year. They want to go to the fountain room, and they want maybe a boxed catered dinner. And it's going to be tables and chairs and a microphone and maybe a slideshow. And so when I think about that, I'm not sure I'm going to have 30 days if you even have availability and I can afford it. So that's the kind of non-complicated where I think there's a difference between something like that and the auction and gala with the liquor and the food and the auction and whatever. And that's where, I was just trying to think of an example. I think that I support the fee at your definition of what the appropriate time frame is. And I think 30 days based on the discussion probably makes sense. But I think there needs to be discretion to waive or to address non-complicated events where you'd like to use the room, see the room rented, and it doesn't add undue burden to the staff in trying to expedite these.
So let me ask Keith and Kathy, do you guys feel that you can execute or implement a system where we say this is a complicated versus not complicated expedited rental? Do you feel like that's something that you can do?
I would say so, much in the same way we've just created the tier 1, 2, 3. I think we'd probably create a tiered system of some sort that defines it, if that works for everyone.
So my next question for the commission is, and Commissioner Rosalind, I did see you raise your hand. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on what Commissioner Mitra said, because you really got me thinking about, usually it's something fell through, something happened. And I wouldn't say it's like 100% that, because some people don't plan ahead and maybe it's going to be a presentation or something. They just need a bigger room. But I think that there are some circumstances where it could be like the venue that they were going to have their event at caught on fire or something, and so they can't have it. So I think we're kind of going on to something here where there are different evaluation tools that we can use to figure it out. If it's just poor planning, well, then, you know, there's just, to me, it's not a black and white situation. So thank you for sharing that.
So for the commission, the second question is there anybody who at this stage of the discussion would object to the 30 days? Anybody who feels so strongly that it needs to be shorter, or are people comfortable with 30 days, which staff is communicating to us is needed at this stage? Are we good with that? Yes. Okay. So I'm seeing a majority would be supportive of 30 days. Okay. Next question. Would be the rate. So we have 170 is what staff is suggesting to us. Is there anybody who suggests that that needs to be changed?
Hey Heidi, why don't?
Yeah.
I like what, where Julia and Kathy are headed is what's complicated, non-complicated, tier 1, tier 2. I think that's a better way of saying the question, because I think that's a better solution. I think whether Heidi or Julia, whatever, but Heidi mentioned is what's complicated, not complicated, and we charge appropriately. So it's a tier 1, tier 2
Okay,
rate.
so I didn't get you suggesting a tiered fee,
No,
just
but
whether to waive or
Kathy-
not waive.
No, what I had said was initially I had said discretion for waivers in appropriate circumstances. Then we talked about slippery slope. Then we talked about the complexities, and you mentioned that maybe a non-complicated one could be treated differently. And then Kathy mentioned it's like a tiered system. So I think it evolved. That's exactly, I would like that to be an option. And I think the tiered language makes sense because it's already in here. And so while I didn't use tiered language, I used complicated versus non-complicated. I think that I would leave that to the staff, in my opinion, to tailor to what they currently use and how they can best make it work, so long as they essentially have the ability to put them into a different tier and make a decision about whether it's relevant or not.
Okay, so let's give them some feedback on general range then. I feel like if there's like the legit, this is a classic expedited situation where they should be charged, is $170 at that top tier. Is that acceptable to everybody?
I didn't think we were talking about tiering the amount of cost. I thought it was,
That's what I thought too.
but I thought it was either it's an but I don't object to the idea if staff says, you know, there is a little something extra undue.
Is
If
that too
that, but I would like to
complicated?
see, I guess, if it needs to come back, I guess it needs to come back. But were you proposing?
And let me make life a little easier.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. One thing is that these fees do have to move on. So they have to go on tonight. Can't
Okay,
come back around.
Perfect.
We cannot put this fee in. And this is a perfectly reasonable option, especially when we come up with something new. A lot of times they'll get kicked out at the facility committee in the first place, but it's reasonable to say, you know what, we're not quite ready with this fee. We want to bring that back around next year, and we can. It's feasible to create a tier with 3 fees. And if you want to tell us to go do that using the top one and figure it out, then we'll move it on to the city council. Or we can again just go with a lower fee or no fee. But I
honestly,
would suggest that you're having a lot of conversation on
Yeah.
it, so it may just not be ready to be a fee this year.
I would caution us to direct staff to do something that's going to be very complicated and add more staff time. That's something that's in my mind. Like I'm more with you on the yes or no thing than I am with this complicated, let's evaluate what tier you're in and several.
Well, they
tiers.
can potentially just have 2 tiers, complicated, non-complicated, or however they want to define it. And the complicated is the 170, and the one that really doesn't add
Is a 0.
is a 0.
Okay.
No, but I
But
think,
that's not what you guys are talking, not what Steve is saying.
I'm listening right now.
Yeah, okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Mitra.
so I actually like what Kathy said. I mean, probably we are not ready for that extra dollar. Maybe we can come back next year on that, right? I mean, we are making it a very complicated. Looks like it's a very simple, complicated, even not uncomplicated. How do you define that? Right? And it's a subjective, right? Many a times I go in, I was told that, oh, your event is very complicated. By what? I mean, why? I mean, there are a lot of could be some sort of argumentative person can come and say, explain me why it's complicated, right? I mean, it'll be an extra burden for you to explain that as well. So,
Okay, wait a
so,
minute.
so I would say I would go with not doing at least this one on that one for this one. Maybe come back next year. That'll be my suggestion.
Okay, Commissioner Darlick.
So is it complicated because there's external issues that need to be addressed as opposed to internal issues which are more easily addressed? like setup and time and, staffing being available. And it's the complication when you're going out to an external agency or other source to facilitate the event. That could be, what the, complicated versus uncomplicated is. That if you're going outside of the city, okay, then you don't have the, the reliability that it's going to happen in a certain period of time and no control over that. Whereas if it's just, I need to reprioritize staffing for an event rather than, having the day off, that could be how it's determined.
Okay, so let me ask this. Let's pause for a sec. So May, when we get to the end of this, and I think this is probably the one that will garner the most discussion, so I think we'll be okay. We're gonna basically in one fell swoop adopt and push it to facilities, correct? So you're not looking for individual motions, if I understand correctly. And if we get to the end and there are any amendments to what is being presented to us to the resolution, then we would include that in our motion. Is that correct?
Oh, sorry, I was like, I have.
No, that's okay. So
We do have
we-
public comment, so just don't miss
Yeah.
that eventually.
Okay,
Um,
well, we've already passed public comment on this item.
I
We'd
don't
already
think
asked.
You didn't go to public comment.
Yeah, we
on
did.
these.
I did.
Oh, look at me.
That's okay. So let's finish this one. So I'm asking, at the end of the process, is that when we're going to make the motion to adopt the fee resolution and pass it on to city council facilities with any amendments? Because we don't vote on individual components, correct?
No, yeah, you can throw on whatever you want on there. Like
Okay.
you would motion to approve the fees, accepting you do not approve or do not recommend forwarding
Right.
this fee, or whatever it is you want to add to it.
Right. So in my mind, what commissioners need to be thinking of is if they feel like this is a fee we need to pass along at this stage of the game, or, as Commissioner Mitra was suggesting, is it something that we remove from the fee resolution and not pass along and wait for staff to dig in a little bit deeper? Obviously, it's, a big enough issue in their mind, correct me if I'm wrong, Keith, that you guys felt it was important to include it at this stage, but it's certainly an option that we look at it in that way. So, what would you recommend, Kathy, in terms of moving forward? Thank you.
I personally really recommend we just don't do this fee this time. I feel like you've had really substantive, good conversation. I think staff's got some great feedback, which is exactly what we need. The feedback from the commission to give us that reflection of the community. And I think we'll come back around maybe next year on the next fee resolution with a different way of looking at this problem. But you also now know we have a problem in this area. So
It was good discussion. I mean, it was a good thing to sort of flesh out a little bit. So I think we can move forward and ask, and if anybody has a suggestion on a better way to handle this, are there any other components of the fee resolution, any proposed changes that people have a lot of energy around that they'd like to discuss at this time?
And Chair Keniston Lee,
Yes.
if I may just add a
Yes.
comment, we actually did some quick math for Vice Chair Dorlick. In answering to your question, how much revenue overall would these fees generate? It would be approximately 146,000.
And some of them are prorated, so we don't even know what
Right.
they would, but that would be kind of the baseline. Great, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I can go through each number, 2, 3, and ask if anybody, or I can just ask you, does anybody have one of the fees resolution items that they are concerned about and would like to discuss further? No? Yes, no? Oh, see, I knew that'd be the one. The only other thing I wanted to throw it, and I would open it up to any general comments as well, is that I would want to, I'm sure I speak for some other commissioners when I say, when you see in the staff report that it says they've done that market analysis, what other cities do, and they said this increase brings us to the top of the range, that's always a red flag for me, and a little beep beep goes off in my head. Not that we don't necessarily merit doing that. Maybe that's completely justified, but I wanted you to know we do take notice of that. And that's where you're saying, Commissioner Breed, that we need to be able to tell residents, why are we at the top of the scale? That's something that will always be in my mind, and we need to be conscious of that. The last thing I would say is that I want to make sure that we're prepared, that staff's prepared to come back to us and say, okay, we did these increases, in alignment with CPI and et cetera. And we found this impact on participation. So that's a breaking point for me. So I'm hoping that as we move forward, you guys are really paying attention to where that nexus is between cost and participation. And when we start seeing a negative impact on the cost, we need to be aware of it and we need to pivot possibly. So that would be another thing I'd love to hear you guys come back and say, hey, we're seeing consistent, if not increased participation, despite the fact that we had to increase fees. So I think that would be fair. Any other general comments? Okay, so I think we're ready for some type of motion. And if the person making the motion wants to remove number 2 off the table, they need to include that in their motion.
Yeah, I'll do it for you.
Okay, thank you.
I move that we forward the fee structure to the finance committee of for the city council and remove fee number 2 out of the fee report. So we forward it to them excluding fee number 2.
Excluding the expedited
Yeah,
rental
yeah.
fee. Okay. All right. Commissioner Breed made the motion. Vice Chair Dorlick, we have a second from him. Okay, so let's take a vote. Okay, motion passes 7-0. Thank you, May. Thank you for all that work.
Thanks,
And
May.
Keith, thank you for the work. And thank you guys for always entertaining our questions and helping us understand the process and the justifications. That's really important. Okay, guys, so we are going to go now. Let me get my agenda here to our staff reports. And Kathy, did you want to comment on anything before we ask for Commissioner clarifying questions?
Absolutely. Just a couple of things I would draw your attention to in the rec report. And specifically the community garden stats, because we just had that joint meeting and I think
Yeah.
that they're pertinent. So the North Community Garden remains booked at 100%. The South Community Garden has grown to 50%
big, yeah.
occupancy, which is great. There is a wait list for the North Community Garden and some customers opted to use the South one until openings become available. So I think that's some nice data.
Mhm.
I wanted to draw your attention to the new mini exhibit titled Celebrating President's Day here at City Hall, because
Yeah.
I did not know that we had a mourning ribbon for President Abraham Lincoln from 1865. And
That's
I think
pretty
that is
neat.
So
That is cool.
Yeah.
cool. And it's right here. So as you leave, you need to stop and look. And then in regards to Public Works, there was lots of storm damage at Forest Home Farm.
Yeah.
Everyone who knows the farm knows. And so there's a lot in there about that being addressed. And also Commissioner Ellicott Pesek, there is a new bottle filling station at the Doherty Valley Service Center. I have to mention that for you.
I did
That's
think
it.
of her, yeah.
Hey, Kathy, quick question.
Uh-huh.
Someone asked me about why the fountains aren't running and I had no idea. So do you know, like the main fountain on Bollinger and one at Doherty and Crow Canyon?
There's, I don't know specifically, but we have a lot of trouble with the maintenance on those fountains and the pieces that go into the motor and run them. And so when they break, it takes forever to get a new piece and they're hard to keep running. During drought times, we do keep them to
Yep.
specific hours, but at this time, it's likely something's broken, but I'm happy to get Public Services answer for you.
Bollinger and Doherty has not been operational consistently over the last.
I don't know, but I'm happy
Yeah,
to
it
get
would be
them.
just for the public comment or public to know what's going on with the fountains. That'd be great. I guess there's a lot of pictures that need to be taken.
Yeah.
Let me talk to Public Works.
There on Bollinger, it's been months now since it said that it had a broken something, but we kind of need an update to bring it back to us when it's maybe gonna be, fixed or something, because the water really looks pretty green right now.
Yeah.
Doesn't look healthy.
I will definitely ask Public Services to either put an update into the rec report on the fountains or come and have a chat.
Yeah, that would be nice, because when you drive by it every day, it's pretty noticeable.
Any Commissioner clarifying questions?
I have one.
Okay, yes, Commissioner Olson.
Kathy, I wanted to ask you about the items in the case out here. Where are they stored? Where?
At the farm, we have all the storage upstairs in the Boone House. That's where all the historic
Mm-hmm.
property collection is stored. Marianne Wilkman catalogs it all and keeps track of it. And we've got the climate controlled spaces and the different pieces
Mm-hmm.
that she uses to make sure that the archival rules are followed. I can't come up with the right word.
Right.
Protocol.
Yeah, protocol. Well, good. I knew the answer, but I just wanted others to hear it.
Okay, so hearing no additional clarifying questions, we'll go to public comment. Country Code Taiwan.
Hi, so thank you for calling me. I have 3 questions and comments for recreation maintenance and operations. For recreation, on Ms. Hyman's report, page 3 of 11, there is a graph that says special events, and there is one under City of San Ramon Foundation events. I'm wondering if that's a San Ramon Arts Foundation, and I actually would like the city to please stop showing R-rated movie to our communities at high school performing arts theater. As a taxpayer, I really don't want my taxes to help promote pornography and unhealthy contents of recreation. This particular movie that you guys are showing, which is a French movie, is extremely pathologic. I don't know what else to say. And I don't want to go into details, but you know what I'm talking about. That really has to be vetted. Anything that is R really shouldn't be shown, through you. It's just inappropriate. For maintenance, I went to finance committee. We are extremely tight on our operation fund. And last year, the city has actually drawn down 1.3 or $1.4 million from people's retirement fund. To me, that is sacrilegious. So please, I would ask you to please consider holding or postpone changing the names of the rooms, because it is not life and death. We can still operate, and we simply don't have those money. If you're bringing in money, great, we need the money. But if you are adding cost that can be reevaluated and postponed, please do so out of respect for you people. It's not for me. It's not my retirement fund, but I really appreciate you guys. So I really think that, you guys really need to know when you retire, you have a good egg waiting there for you. And that's why I'm speaking up for. And raising fees is necessary because everything is going up and you deserve to be paid. Our city deserves to be paid. What can become an intervention is that we can have scholarship that can be donated by nonprofit or any other people who are rich enough to help out those people who are in need. So we can actually have a scholarship fund that go to needs only. But there are a lot of people in our city who are extremely wealthy. So by charging them less than what they can afford during inflation really is sinful, in my opinion. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Speaker. So the one question we can answer is, I believe the foundation event was the San Ramon Historic Foundation crab feed. That was one we were referencing, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. All righty. So any commissioner comments on this item? No? Okay. All righty. So we will now go to item 10, Commissioner Liaison Reports and Announcements. I'll get the ball rolling with the January 24th City Council meeting. I don't often report on public comment, but there were several residents who talked about the impact of flooding and drainage on the Sunny Glen senior community. So there just was a lot of impact on the farm and in different places. And in some ways, I feel we probably have benefited from our due diligence, but that one was a doozy in a lot of ways. So I think that was interesting. The City Council received the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee annual report. They held the first public hearing on the TrueMark homes on Deerwood. There were special proclamations declaring January the National Human Trafficking Prevention Month. And let's see, there is just FYI, there's a Contra Costa Human Trafficking Task Force, and there have also been some San Ramon sting operations to address that problem as well. There was a presentation of the Outstanding Teen Citizenship Award to Fatima Hussein. So that was nice to see her speak again. And then, as has been happening with planning and other groups, there was a public meeting not just recently. Sort of the first iterations of the Chevron Park design were presented to the city council by Sunset developer Alex Marin Jr. They're very much in the early rendering stages. And so if you're interested, you should look and see the different concepts on the recording. The things I wanted to mention to you guys is currently the concept includes a large, what they're referring to as a central park, as well as, although the renderings in the lobby, I don't believe show at this stage the pocket parks. They are looking at several pocket parks as well. I know planning asked that future renderings include a reference to not only the pocket parks, but to how the walking district would be impacted in the pedestrian walkways. And so that was important. So I just want us to be conscious of that, because moving forward, I think these are things that we need to be aware of and possibly weigh in on where we can, obviously, where it's within our purview. And so that's all I'll mention for now. So let's start down with Commissioner Ellicott-Pesic. Okay, Commissioner Osler.
Okay, we had the Senior Advisory Committee meeting on Monday, the 6th. And it was a very, I know you guys will be interested in here that we had a presentation given by Becky Adams on the Senior Express Van update. And so what they're planning on doing is we have May 2023. They're going to provide in-depth education sessions on paratransit services at the Al Costa Senior Center and Community Center. Beginning in June 2023, the LINK staff will be at the center to conduct individual assessments and help link applications. And this will help remove some of the burden for the residents needing to travel to Martinez for the assessments. So that is really great. And then beginning in June 2023, the County Connection is going to host mobile lobby at they're going to do this quarterly, but they're going to have a mobile lobby at the center on a quarterly basis. County Connection customer service representatives will be there to provide information regarding route information, trip planning, Clipper cards, paratransit, and regional transit discount cards. So things are happening around the public transit for the seniors, and that was great. The Senior Advisory Committee has created a San Ramon Senior Recognition Program. It had been done in the past, but they're resurrecting it. And so we're gonna start to see applications go out and then nominate seniors or community groups that are being advantageous and helping seniors. So that's a new thing that's coming up. And then senior facility visitations, several of the committee members visited sites. They went to Deer Creek, Valley Vista, Carefield, and Pleasanton, Brookdale, 2 different Brookdale sites, Watermark, Ivy Parks, and Rootlinger. And their mission was to just find out, are these facilities aware of the senior services that we have here in San Ramon? And are there residents coming to the facility to use the services? And it was kind of a mixed response. Valley Vista has a lot of folks that do not drive. And so there was conversation about trying to get some kind of van service to come out and help them come to the Al Costa Senior Center. So we'll stay tuned on that. Hopefully that will develop. But certain facilities that are kind of more turnkey, where they offer a lot of the senior services that we offer at the Al Costa Senior Center, they do it in-house. And so there wasn't really a real interest to partner, but there were conversations, starting to bubble up. So I thought that was really eye-opening, the research and the information that they found. And then the last thing is, I think that, that's it. They did have a mixer on January, when was it? I want to say it was the 26th, where it was just a meet and greet, come and didn't really have a theme, but just as an opportunity to get folks together to get acquainted. And they had 16 folks show up for that. So that was really good. They have another one in February. So I'll announce that at our actually, it's in March. So I'll let you guys know at our next meeting when that is. And just want to do a shout out that on Saturday, February 11th, I'm going to be leading the hike with Sally Scholl for the Open Space Advisory Committee. And we're meeting here at the Community Center at 9 a.m. And we're going to do the Lake Annabelle walk. And we're going to be talking a lot about the walking district and encouraging folks to really notice all the green areas that we have and the trees that we have here in the city to help increase well-being. So we're excited about that.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy? This Saturday.
This Saturday at 9 a.m. at the Centermont Community Center. We're meeting there. It's a nice flat walk, but we hear we might have a little rain, so bring an umbrella.
Okay, thank you. The Planning Commission has been busy. They've had a lot of discussion. I mean, it's very hard to curtail of what to say in a few sentences. Sense that they're, so at one meeting that they did, pass, it gets confusing whether it's the general plan or the specific plan or whatever, but they did settle on that. And in the next one, the Planning Commission is not really happy with the proposal that's being approved or not approved, but it has been before them with the housing that's going in where Nob Hill was. So there's really issues on that. There's some serious issues that they're taking up and probably will go to the council on with who's in charge of certain areas. So there's some serious things there because that they feel that there needs to be a lot more done for that area. And the other one was, again, as you reported, that Sunset Development had their plan and everything. Now, I do know couple of the planning commissioners are concerned about there is not enough area for parks. And so would be my issue too with their planning is there needs to be a lot more parks in that area than that they propose with just the little pocket parks, because it kind of doesn't go along with what we've planned for parks in our city. So those are the highlights, but it does take hours to get through. So you can't cover every absolute little detail.
Good job. Vice Chair Dorlick,
Yes.
your turn.
Well, as has been happening the last couple of meetings, major agenda items here have been major agenda items at the Arts Advisory Committee. So the only other agenda item that the Arts Advisory Committee was covering was continued planning for the upcoming Art Summit. I don't believe there's a final date that's been selected, but there have been participants and timing and more agenda items.
So that'll be here in San Ramon?
Yes,
Good.
yeah. Last one was about, Josh, 8 years ago, 10 years ago.
Any tentative month or anything?
It's gonna be this year.
And I assume they're going to do it at the Doherty Station Community Arts Center.
Probably wouldn't be ready in time. It's probably gonna be in the community center. So that was the main topic, and then the naming, substantive conversations there. And just to mention again, the ladies' night out on March 11th. It's going to be the third performance in the Performing Arts Series. We only did 3 events this year, but if you were at the last event,
Can I comment?
29th, with the Marshall Tucker Band.
We
that
had-
was a kick.
We had our own Will Dorlick did all the announcing, and it was like, good job, Will.
Nice.
It was great. Yeah.
What? She's giving you props. She's saying good job.
Yeah, it was their 50th anniversary tour, so in a substantive conversation regarding that, since it's my 50th college reunion coming up. I said, hey, you guys, come on. But that was pretty much a sellout.
Nice.
So come on out to the March 11th. That will be great. It's Sheena Easton and
Taylor Day.
Taylor Day. Yes, thank you. Thank you. So that was that should be an excellent one.
Thank you.
Good team council.
Commissioner Mitra?
Oh, the teen council?
Oh.
Oh, gosh, I'd have to go back and take a look. There were substantive conversations regarding the ambassador program. And then all the subcommittees reported, but that was and then discussion of our conversations regarding the interview and screening process
Thank
for the
you.
applications.
Thank you all.
Oh, thank you for reminding me.
Thank you for being.
Oh. Thank you for that.
Go ahead.
Can I go?
Yeah. Yeah, please.
Keep going.
Please.
Bouncing
Please,
back and
Commissioner
forth,
Mitra.
and I'll be still waiting. So.
This is the bewitching hour for us, apparently.
It's like 1480.
All right. Okay, so library committee, we had the call last month, 12th of January. Richard did a fantastic job explaining the whole report. That was one of the part of the presentation, major part of the presentation. So that is covered. I won't repeat that. There are a couple of things that happened as well. We selected the committee selected the story walk. It's for the spring 2023 is Beer Come Along. So that was chosen. And it's actually pretty interesting, pretty good thing. Other thing was there's some feedback. As I was mentioning, there was some feedback. Commissioners did the walkthrough to the different community libraries. And they came back with some of the feedback on that. That was pretty good feedback. Like, they said computers are not being used, right? That was one of the things. Computers.
Computers are not being used.
Computers are not being used because everybody has a laptop, which is what's like a computer, right? And they have them. So that is something came up. There was no conclusion like what should we have that, not have that? We just stopped there. And then meeting rooms, most of the people reported that meeting rooms are pretty full on that. Sometimes kids, sometimes others meeting rooms are pretty well used. Lots of throughout the day, some people reported that the crowd footfall in the libraries are not enough. On that, there are 70 spaces, but we know that at the end of the school, there are a lot of people go there on that to the library. There are kids especially go there on that. So that was on that, and there was finally one decision was there to continue that, do it further, sometimes again throughout the year or something like that.
To keep visiting
and
libraries.
getting feedbacks.
So what computers do they have? I mean, do they have like old,
Probably similar.
Windows-based PCs that nobody uses?
I think so. I guess so. I've never used it, but yeah, I would.
Okay,
guess
so they're kind of somewhat antiquated, machines that.
So their phone, probably the kid's phone are way more powerful than the computer probably.
Or should we replace those with computer stations rather than actual hardware? So when people come in, they can, plug in and plug into the network rather than have a machine, because nobody's going to work on somebody else's machine. That's just.
Well, it sounds like it's a launching point for that discussion.
For the discussions that I think Will brought up, like, can we provide something like a video studio or something like that to kids to try out something like that.
Or
something like that probably would be an interesting thing to.
Yeah, instead of those, just have a couple of Chromebooks lying around that if people want to just access.
Okay, so,
rather than that.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, we're gonna get to public comment after. Commissioner Breed?
I don't have a whole lot. I mean, we'll cover the team council for me because I had to be out of town for work. So I will kind of share a personal thing with you. I was selected, I do a lot of volunteer work for Little League. And a Little League International sent me a letter last week, and I'm umpiring a West Region. It's like, games for the 14 to 16-year-olders.
Wow.
And
Better make some good calls.
At Max Baer?
No, that's a Little League World Series. That's
Right.
It's a level below. So it's
Okay.
all the West people, all the people in the West, but it's more the senior level. So, but it was kind of a pretty cool deal.
Where
So,
is it?
It's the end of July, so I will not.
No,
miss
where?
the meeting. Oh, actually, it's at Laney College. I don't have to fly.
Oh.
'Cause one guy told me that I wanted to go to Bend, Oregon, but it's in Laney College. I'm like, great, I don't even have to travel. Everyone else has to travel.
So
That's exciting.
It's gonna be a whole deal.
Next level is Max Bear Park.
What's that?
Next level is Max Bear Park.
Well, yeah, I'll do Little League. We'll see. I'm happy doing this, so, because I got a lot going on, but it's gonna be fun for me, so.
Neat.
And it's all for free. I do it all. for
Yeah,
free.
that's
Yeah,
nice. That's nice. Okay, so let's open up public comment. We have one comment, color card, or speaker card rather, county code Taiwan,
Country code,
country code, sorry.
country code 886 Taiwan. Thank you.
Okay.
So I have a question for Commissioner Ellicott Pesek. Which committee meeting were you supposed to go, but you didn't go? Because you said you have nothing to report. That's why I was assuming that
You know what, we're just gonna leave it at that she has nothing to report. It could be there wasn't a meeting. There's a number of
Okay,
reasons.
So
we're not
I
gonna
would
go
like
into
to
that.
see you guys present at Finance and Policy Committee as well, if it's possible. I don't know why I've never seen you guys there before or participating, but it would be worthy for you guys to know finance. That way you can better, judge whether some of the programs that you're doing is feasible or not. And then policy wise, of course, is very important because that directs our entire city. So then for teen council, I hope that going forward next year, you guys will please not meet on Tuesday at 6 o'clock because that's when the school district board meets exactly. And, to have transparency, government for everyone, including parents, students, and, taxpayers and stakeholders. Please do not create intentional conflict for meeting times. Now is a good time to, rectify that if possible for next year. I would really appreciate it. And for planning city council meeting, I heard some families up here pleading for planning to please help expedite repair permits for seniors who were affected by the flood. And I was hoping there would be some sort of update or disclosure coming from senior advisory, which I couldn't make it this Monday because there were county level meetings that I wanted to go to. But it doesn't seem like that was updated, which is really unfortunate because there were 150 residents affected. When I was listening to them, my heart goes out to them because it was flooded all the way up to their knees. And these are 70s and 80 years old residents. And I was a little bit disappointed that our city really didn't send out any physical help when these people were in hotel. They needed perhaps technology to, help to file. Danville is now helping their people to file with FEMA. And I didn't hear anything about our city doing that for our affected residents, which is really a shame. I hope that can be rectified if it's still in time or on time. And I want to share something with you guys that I had visually witnessed back in November, which I had this is important. If you will, please, because in November, I saw that there were public works trying to plunge water on the sidewalk near our senior center by Starbucks. There were already telltale signs that something was plugging the infrastructure around that area. And I suspect that it could be the foliage that is not being swept out on time. And then they ended up dropping into our infrastructure underground. And then that caused a bunch of clogging. If you guys can please check into that. So next year we don't have this in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any last minute announcements before we adjourn? And I'm gonna do it with anyway. All right, we are adjourned.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.